Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And today, I've got my chosen of Valhalla, my $25 and up backers on Patreon and Subscribestar. And we're going to be talking about some movies, pop culture, pretty much anything that they want to talk about is fair game. And so let's go ahead and introduce everybody once again. And so we're going to start off with the only modern major general on the channel. And that, of course, is Laura. Laura, Ryan stole my fanfiction story. How's it going?
Hello. Happy Sunday to everybody.
Yes, indeed. Happy Sunday to you. How have you been?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I took a long weekend, so I'll be off Monday. You go see, you're gonna spend a whole day in the movie theater. Yes. It's like 3 movies.
And what movies are you gonna go see?
Oh, wow. I'm gonna go see. Don't laugh at me. I'm gonna go see the Downton Abbey movie, of course.
Of course.
Of course. My girl.
That's a great show. It is a great show. I have no shame about that. It's a wonderful show.
Yeah, the wife just started watching it. I was like,
nice.
You got to catch up.
Yeah,
you got to catch up because we got to go see this movie. Mm-hmm. Let's see, and of course Rambo. Because I got to stick it to the haters.
Yes.
And probably that Ad Astra movie.
Okay, yeah, especially with everything we're hearing, because there's some people trying to spin it as, oh, the critics like that movie because it's anti-this, and they hate this because it's that. And I have a feeling that they're both just movies, and that they both just appeal to different sensibilities. Like, I think that Ad Astra seems more of the high end, where it's more thinking, slow burn type film. Some people like it, some people hate it. And Rambo is Rambo. And I think that those are pretty much the only descriptors needed for the movie. I don't know why everyone's jumping on the, oh my God, this is toxic masculinity, or, oh my God, this flies in the face of toxic masculinity. And it's like, just stop. Just stop. Just let it be a movie, please.
It's Rambo. Of course it's toxic masculinity. Oh, this is poison.
It's guns, explosions, and more guns, explosions as well. So, but Laura, so you're excited to spend an entire day in a theater? You need your popcorn.
Oh God, yes. I do that a lot on Saturdays. It'll just be all day movies, you know.
I see. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's great. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's my little escape on Saturdays. It's my me time. Mm-hmm. You know, like I said, I spent my 20s raising a kid, so I feel I owe it to myself.
Well, plus, like, there's, you know what? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm honest. I buy the tickets through Fandango. I don't theater hop like, you know, a hooligan. So.
You buy every single ticket just the way it is. And do you have AMCs out near you?
We have one, but it's in the ghetto. So.
In the ghetto? Yes. Yeah, definitely don't want to go there. That's for sure. Because we had a couple of those back in New Orleans, and we stayed away from them. There was one on the West Bank of New Orleans, and they were known for having shootings in the parking lot.
Oh, geez.
And as a supervisor, I prayed that I was never transferred, and luckily I never was. But I had friends that were managers and supervisors that got transferred, and they were terrified before having to go over there.
I have a horrible theater story. So my wife works at the emergency room at the trauma center locally. And just my daughter and I went to see one of the Harry Potter sequels, the horrible ones, the creature ones. And we're sitting in the theater.
Fantastic Beast.
Yeah. And my phone went off, and I just got a new number, so nobody knew my number but her, so I knew it had to be something important. Mm-hmm. And I peek at my phone, and she was like, "What theater are you at?" I was like, Brendan and Concord. She's like, "Okay, you might want to leave. There was a shooting outside of the theater." So I'm just like, crap. So I look over at my daughter, and I'm like, okay, well, that's not good information. Which exit do I go out of? You know, I don't want to walk out onto the street. So I grabbed Jess, and we stood up, and just then the house lights came on.
Oh my goodness.
And the SWAT was there.
Wow.
And they walked us. I was just like, because I was like, that's not really good information for me, because I don't know which way to go.
Yeah.
It turned out it was a robbery that went wrong. But yeah, walk out, SWAT everywhere, people, you know, just flooding out of the theater. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. You see, if it was
early information doesn't help.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I would just be like, I'm going to stay in the theater and just stay away from all of that. And
I think I'd be staying in the back corner with the weapons I always carry going. I didn't go into the middle of that till
on here, so I was just not prepared.
Yeah,
Not prepared.
absolutely. Well, damn. Well, I hope that none of that happens on Monday for you, so that way you can just sit and enjoy all 3 movies,
I was like,
and then
this thing
and
down
then
here.
yeah, and then get back to us and let us know how those movies are, because those are all movies that I still need to and actually want to see as well. I think I'm like a season or 2 behind on Downton Abbey, so I need to look into it to see if this is something that is I'm assuming it's a direct follow up to the events of the final season, or is it at a certain part of the series, or do you know what it is?
Yeah, it's kind of after the end.
Okay.
Because Edith has a little kid and
Mhm.
stuff, but
Okay.
yeah.
Spoiler warning. Jeez. I mean, I assume that was what was going to happen, but I mean,
that's what they do. Is they walk around and look pretty and have babies
and have babies. Exactly. It was that time of history, right? It's just
beautiful and multiply.
yes,
And
exactly.
multiply.
Babies.
Exactly. Well, we also have joining us once again the wonderful Valkyrie, Tina. Tina, how are you doing today?
Well, my headache is cleared, so I'm doing fine. Thank you.
Good. Any exciting movie stories or any plans going on today or tomorrow?
No, it is. I don't think summer is going to end here. It's looks like it's going to be in the 90s again this week. And I have no plans except what I was telling you all. I'm like about 50 some days away from my cruise, so my brain is heading in that direction. That's all I can think of.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm jealous. I've never been on a cruise myself, but the more you talk about them, the more I think, you know what, it might actually be a fun thing to do.
It is, and of course the bad thing about living, like you're in Tennessee, I'm in Kentucky, and when I say bad thing is that we have to fly everywhere to get to the ports. And I have a friend in Florida, and she's like, "Oh, you ought to move to Florida." And it's like, yeah, because I would have so many ports to choose from. But it's okay. I'm used to it. But yeah, this would be really cool. I've never been to New Orleans before. So like I think I mentioned, I'm flying in like 4 days ahead so I can tour New Orleans. And then the cruise is 7 days. And then I'll be back home a few days before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's a great place to visit, I would say. I mean, obviously the food, not a great place to live, great place to visit for sure. As I can testify to, but it is, I would say the food is worth it. The food alone is worth going to visit for those. Like for 4 days, you'll be able to see everything that you need to see, like tourist wise, but also you'll have more than enough time to get all the food that you could possibly ever want and get your fix of char-grilled oysters and, all the seafood options. Oh my God. Yes. Because that is something that I miss.
Because we had one lady that's in my Facebook group for the cruise. She and her husband got married at a guest house across from Lafitte's blacksmith shop, and she was like, "Oh, you got to hit Lafitte's. That's like the oldest bar, one of the oldest bars in the United States." And she said, "Oh, me and my husband got married at this guest house across the street, and hit Felix's because they have fantastic char-grilled oysters." And I'm just like, that one video I was watching, they said, yeah, don't chow down at one place, just pace yourself and have a little bit here and a little bit there. So I mean, I even found a bar that has bacon happy hours. That's so cool.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And I was going to say, that's the other thing, too. Pace yourself on food, but also don't be slamming down those hand grenades, Tina. All right? Don't be slamming down those specialty drinks.
Oh, my gosh. No, I have to, I pace myself with those because, like, even on the cruise, I have the unlimited beverage package. And I mean, I see people, we haven't even left the port and they're already like and I'm like, okay, well, they're on vacation. If they want to get hammered and we haven't even left the port yet, that's fine, but I even pace myself with that. It's like
Yeah.
the only nice thing about the unlimited is that I can try a drink that maybe I wouldn't ordinarily try, and if you don't like it, you just set it aside and say, okay, I'll go with something that I know I like.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, no movie stories. I've looked at a couple of old movies. I looked at the Basil Rathbone, Nigel Bruce, Sherlock Holmes that I had never seen before. I was really surprised, and I was like, I don't recognize this one at all.
Mhm.
So that was pleasant.
Yeah.
And Pluto TV has they've started some channels for different classic stars, and I looked at a Garbo movie
Nice. I need to check out
the
this
other
Pluto
day
TV because
that
I
I
hear
had
you
never
talk about
seen
it all the
before.
time, and it seems like you can find a lot of content
They
on there.
Yeah, the Roku channels are expanding, and Pluto TV. It's like every week they're adding more and more channels. And I've caught up on James Bond movies because they have a 24/7 Bond channel.
Oh,
So
nice.
I've had a chance to catch up on some of those. Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds like something I need. I need a 24-hour James Bond channel.
it just seems
Sounds
like something
good.
that you could just like put on in the
Yeah.
background, like have it on in the background, have it just be something that you like go
Yeah.
back to every now and then. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. This is a movie that I haven't seen or I've seen part of,
Right.
It reminds me a little bit of the.
So,
Do any of y'all?
yeah.
Do any of y'all watch the Christmas Story 24-hour marathons when they come on for Christmas?
Oh yeah.
So
Yes.
Every year when we try to visit her.
every year, and it's always something that I have on
Uh-huh.
in the background. And it used to be something where we would, we'd be sleeping or visiting my parents, and so we'd go and try and sleep upstairs, try and remember what it was like to be kids and how to go downstairs and everything. But before then, we'd fall asleep to Christmas Story, and we'd leave it on. We'd just leave the TV on, and so we'd wake up, and Christmas Story would still be playing. And it was hilarious to ever wake up, and you're waking up at either the same point you fell asleep to, or you're waking up and it's the end of the movie, and then all of a sudden it's transitioning back to the beginning of the movie again. You're like, oh my gosh, this is it's cool. I don't know. It's just something that is very fun and entertaining.
Do you know what's stuck in my head now because you had to bring that up?
What's that?
One of the guys that I stream with in evenings actually has a full body suit that for a costume he got that is the bunny suit from Ralphie.
Oh my God.
And he will put it on and jump on the street hopping around just to freak people out. This is a middle-aged DJ.
Well, that sounds amazing though. And that brings
It's
us. Yeah, go
a
ahead.
pink nightmare.
A pink nightmare.
A pink nightmare.
God, so many great lines in that movie. But that does bring us to the other and last person to talk about one of my chosen of Valhalla. She is coming to us from a remote location somewhere in the Badlands, and that is Rosetta.
Right now.
Alan!
Hello.
What's going on, Rosetta?
Well, ended up in the mountains because of dealing with family stuff. So right now I'm in the Black Hills. I've been off in the Badlands a lot. We'll be again in the next couple days. And next Sunday is the hike up Crazy Horse. So
What is Crazy Horse?
the monument, the mountain.
Okay.
They open it up for people to actually hike up and picnic up on the arm of the monument a couple times a year.
I've actually never heard of this before. So is it?
It's called the Volks March. It's usually the first weekend in June, but it's getting so crowded they've had to add a day in September when they can also do it, which is better for me because it's not so hot and miserable up on the mountain.
Yeah. Is this something that they only do once a year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a special event and stuff. I have done it twice before. Once when I was really little, and once when it was just me and my parents, and I was their pack mule when I was about 11.
Oh.
Don't you love when you're a kid and they're like, "Here, take this, take this."
Well, considering my parents are both disabled, I don't really mind that they made me carry the cooler.
And I'm glad you brought that up because let's talk about your badass father. Tell everyone about how badass your dad is.
Okay, so this is the thing. It's on Thursday we went out into the Badlands Summit. It's hot. It's miserable. But my dad, who is 61 now, with multiple types of muscular dystrophy, decided he wanted to climb like he used to. So he was climbing up on the peaks and checking out the views and stuff like that on his walker.
Damn.
As I said, he is a badass.
I'm in the mountains.
Because for those watching last night, we talked about that a little bit because Rosetta had mentioned it in the chat, and it's truly amazing. It really is, because it really goes back to that. There are some people out there that, the kids I teach, great examples, where they would rather stay in all weekend playing a video game and could not bother to go outside, especially in Tennessee, where there's amazing hiking within 5 minutes of almost every person, and they would rather just stay inside. And then you've got there a 61-year-old man, muscular dystrophy, who is hiking with the walker, being a total badass.
Oh, I was so proud. I was hiking all over the area, and I've got pictures I still have to go through that are like down the crevice lines and stuff. I got to watch. Oh, holy crap! You know how I rant about Iowans. This little girl in the Hawkeye shirt out in the Badlands visiting, I say little girl, she was probably about 19, who freaked out squeaking and whining because she stepped in the bighorn sheep poop.
See
it. She just expect it up on the peaks.
Oh, gosh.
And I tried so hard not to laugh.
I just think it's funny that you're out in nature and then something natural happens like that and you freak out. It's like, what'd you expect?
I know, right?
Did you expect it to be paved and clean and Disney World where there's people sweeping up behind you?
Oh, there are people who freak out every year. There's people who get mad because the parks don't control the bison and they can scratch on and rub on their cars. It's like, what do you want them to do?
It's like
They're animals that weigh a couple tons and could take out a car. What do you want them to do about it rubbing on your car? You think they were out there when you went out there.
Wow. Yeah, to me, I'm sure that they have warnings about that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's to me, it's like, okay, you're warned about it in advance. They're wild animals. So what do you expect them to do? Domesticate all of the bison? Yeah, good luck with that.
They can domesticate some because they sell off the ones that are too populous to contain them within the park without causing population issues to ranchers and other parks and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they do cut the more tame ones from the herd and then domesticate and train them as well as they can and sell them off. But you can only do so much of that, and only some of them will take it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And we actually have a question from the chat, so I'll pose it to the panel we have going on today. So once again, thank you to my chosen for joining me for this stream. It's going to be a fun day. And Mark Oquist starts things off here since we were talking about Christmas Story. He says, what do you think of Trading Places as a Christmas movie? So we'll start here with Laura.
Oh my God. Never thought of it as a Christmas movie, but yeah, now that I think about it, it was. It's in that Die Hard area where it's like, it's not about Christmas.
Yeah.
It's just set during that period.
I think it was more that.
Tina, what you got?
I love Trading Places. It's been years since I've seen it. And I remember, wasn't Dan Aykroyd in a Santa Claus outfit at one point?
Yes, he was.
But I never thought of it as a Christmas movie. Not like I would think of Die Hard as being one, but I think it's probably just one of those movies. Oh, it just happens to be Christmas time, but it's not necessarily a Christmas movie.
Okay. All right. What about you, Rosetta? What do you think?
I think I kind of agree with her on most all of that, including great movie. Haven't seen it in too long.
Yeah, and here I am, and I have another movie confession to make. I've never seen Trading Places.
Just another place.
Oh my gosh!
Card from you. Just another place.
I feel like my movie credit is just constantly just being degraded, and at some point I'll be at negative points for.
I think you're getting close.
So I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll pull up my handy dandy list that now has 20 movies on it that I need to see, and Trading Places now gets to add it to the list.
Amazon is currently shipping you a copy of Trading Places.
Odin, if you see Trading Places,
yeah.
have you seen Coming to America? And I'm asking that for a specific reason. Have you seen Coming to America?
I have not.
Okay. After you see Trading Places,
adding that to the list as
watch
well.
Coming to America.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason why I'm saying to watch that is because there is a little moment in Coming to America, which makes you think Coming to America and Trading Places are happening in the same shared universe. So I think you'll when you see it, I think you're going to go, oh wait, that's and it'll click.
Bruce says, the more you admit to not seeing movies, the more I wonder about the name Odin's movie blog. Yeah, and the more I start to ask the question when we do the Friday night streams over on Gary's channel or on Nerdrotic, when they say, yeah, you have a movie blog, right? And I'm like, sometimes I wonder if I actually even have one. But for the record, the two movies that were just listed off are both 80s movies. And I've always admitted that my weakest decade is the 80s. That is my...
But that was
the
best decade. You missed the best decade.
I know. I was born. I had 2 years. I had 2 years in that decade where I was a child and did not have access to these movies at that time. And I was a 90s kid at heart. And that's why I'm looking at my list of movies, and the vast majority of them are from the 1980s. So... no surprise there.
Oh, wow.
I'll go ahead and just read off some of them. The 80s movies I have on here are Tango and Cash, Lock Up, Stand By Me, Dragon Slayer, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, War Games, Trading Places, Coming to America. So I'm sure some of y'all are like, how have you never seen those movies? Well,
how have you never seen those? And I'm trying to remember... I'm trying to remember 80s. See, it used to be I could tell you every best picture from the 80s. I could hear the year, and now it's just like all of that has just kind of gone out of my brain. But what was the year that? Oh shoot, what was the name of the movie? The same year we had Empire of the Sun, which starred a very young Christian Bale, and it was a Spielberg directed movie. It was up for Best Picture, and it was up against The Last Emperor. And when Last Emperor won, I kept saying they probably thought they were voting for Empire of the Sun, and they accidentally voted for The Last Emperor. Probably. And my mom liked The Last Emperor. I looked at it, and it was like, I never have to see this movie again. It was one of those epics, but it was just, I was like,
don't you love when people say that?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Where they talk about how they like a movie, but then they're like, yeah, but I never need to see that again. And I'm like, is it really a good movie? I know there's some movies that are like that. Like, I know a lot of people feel that way about films like Passion of the Christ, where they appreciate it for what it is, but they're like, I never want to see it again, because why would I want to put myself through that? And it's like, I understand it. But then I'm like that person where if I really like a movie, I will watch it like as many times as I really like desire to, right? There's never movies that I like that I don't want to ever see again. I
thought I gave you a list of 80s comedies that are really irreverent and inappropriate to today's society to watch. Have you watched them, or are they just not on your list?
Well, I was distracted because I just took 2 pictures of my dogs that are sleeping.
Aww.
And I'll go ahead and show. So remember this is River right now. So so my
yellow and stuff like that, and telling you to watch more of these 80s comedies that are really irreverent.
So for those that I'm holding up the picture for people. I know that on my Hangouts people, y'all can't see it, so I'm gonna hold up for a little while so that way it'll show up. But this is River. She's just passed out on the wooden floor, which is wonderful. And then of course you can see some of Couch Puppy. But this is Willow, and she's curled up into a little ball. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, she's she's curled up with a little bone right next to her, just in case she gets hungry. Oh. Yeah.
Your lack of knowledge bored the dogs to sleep.
Wait, say that again.
So what you're saying is that your lack of knowledge has bored the dogs to sleep.
Yes, my lack of knowledge, especially 80s knowledge, for sure, has bored the dogs, and they're just like, Dad says he has a movie channel, but I don't believe it.
You need to make sure they're on your list.
Wait, what's that? What needs to be on my list?
Comedies from the 80s before that you need to watch. You need to make sure they're on your list. And especially things like Yellowbeard and stuff that absolutely would offend everyone today.
Well, now that I actually have the list, because this is something that I started about a couple weeks ago. So
Yeah,
Yellowbeard, 1983.
Yellowbeard is it's
Okay.
a good start. It actually came out the year I was born.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
All right, it's on the list now.
You've got to, get more offensive to them, and you've also got to get more 80s knowledge, because you're sadly lacking.
I am definitely. I mean, Alex.
I have more 80s knowledge than I should have, considering a lot of the stuff I watched and how young I was when they came out.
So,
But
Alex McCarthy.
Okay, well, Odin.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I was going to say you have seen Ghostbusters, right?
Oh, of course. Yes, I have seen those. I've seen
Okay.
those. That's why I was so offended by Ghostbusters 2016, because I grew up loving the originals, and when that movie came out, I was like,
The original. Okay.
Yeah, I even love Ghostbusters 2.
Okay.
I think they're both great for different reasons.
I saw Ghostbusters 2 opening weekend, and I didn't think it was as good as the first one, but it was still fun.
Yeah. Oh,
it's still bomb compared to the crap today.
That's for sure. It's just more goofy. And also it's creepy too. Like when the guy that's been taken over by the painting shows up and his eyes are flashing like lights. Oh my God, that's a creepy image.
Yeah.
I tell you.
By the way, Midnight's Edge is saying they're offended.
Wait, say that one more time. Sorry, my dogs were just barking.
Midnight's Edge is saying in the chat they're offended lack of 80s.
Oh, they're offended? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Midnight's Edge. I've let you down. But I saw someone list off a bunch of movies. So, Tommy, I have seen Escape from New York. I have seen Gremlins, Goonies, Breakfast Club. Haven't seen Weird Science. Have seen Road Warrior. So I have seen those. But yeah. He says, how many have you not seen besides Trading Places, Coming to America? I mean, I can't answer a negative. I can't answer how many films I haven't seen because I haven't seen them. So I have no idea how many movies I haven't seen.
Have you seen 48 Hours?
Have I seen which 48 Hours?
48 Hours, yeah.
I own it, but I have not actually watched it yet. But I do own that one.
Oh, that was like the first big movie Eddie had after he came off Saturday Night Live. That was when everybody kind of sat up and said, oh my gosh, he's a star.
Yeah.
So, I mean, those of us that had watched him on Saturday Night Live, we kind of figured he's going to break out. But yeah, 48 Hours is fantastic. So watch 48 Hours, then watch Trading Places, then watch Coming to America.
Oh, that's great. Laura, do you have any 80s recommendations of things that I probably haven't seen?
Let's see. So we got, have you seen Risky Business with Tom Cruise?
I've not seen that movie.
It was like one of his first movies, too.
God.
I own it. It's I have it. There was a Tom Cruise trilogy that came out, and so I have that and Days of Thunder and The Firm. So it's like all three of them are on that one.
Okay. And Midnight's Edge asks, have you seen Beverly Hills Cop? Bruce is like, have you seen Top Gun?
I've seen Top Gun, yes. I have not seen Beverly Hills Cop.
Look up Who's Harry Crumb. It's one of my favorite ones from Candy.
Wait, what was the name of the movie again?
Who's Harry Crumb? It's a mock of just I don't know how to explain it to you. It's cemented.
1989, Paul Flaherty. Okay. Got it. Have I seen Steel with Michael Jordan in it? Hell no, I haven't seen that movie. Hell no, I haven't seen Steel. I've seen Space Jam though, and Space Jam is fantastic. We do have a couple of people to shout out over on D Live because Captain Dean Heiss is over there on D Live, and he says for a movie blog, there sure are a lot of movies that you haven't seen. You're right. You're right. You're calling me out. And thank you, Captain Roy, for giving 6 ice creams over on D Live. I appreciate it, man. You're
I'm
awesome.
right here on the stream with him, but I'm calling him out on this every stream.
Oh, trust me, I deserve to be called out because
I tons of crap on this every time, don't I?
Yes, you have. You always do. And Tommy says sacrilege. No Beverly Hills Cop. You're right. You're right. And I see Midnight's Edge is freaking out in the chat. I'm so sorry about that.
I don't blame them.
By the way, we've got a Patreon legend in the chat. We've got the Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, who's been a patron for a very long time. But because he's a UK-based person, he's never awake when we normally stream. So glad to have you here, Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, man. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Oh,
And yes, Alex McCarthy, I have seen Big. There are movies from the 80s that I have seen. There's also just a lot of films that I haven't seen yet either. So,
what about all the John Candy movies? You know, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Uncle Buck, and
Uncle Buck is fucking UHF. How about for Weird Al?
UHF?
Weird Al's movie?
I've never heard of UHF.
Oh.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
Does UHF stand for something?
Yeah, literally, they're using the broadcasting term. It's about him running a TV station.
I've heard of it. I just never have actually seen it myself. But I have seen Uncle Buck. Uncle Buck is fantastic. When he goes and knocks down the door of the room and he brings in the weapon to try and take down the guy and realizes that it's not his niece, but it's someone else. But then he thinks about it for a second, and then he's got that creepy smile, turns off the light, and still walks towards him. Every time has me rolling on the floor. But I have seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but I don't like it.
oh,
The reason why is because they're just so mean. So I was like, they're just so mean, and I just don't.
Oh.
I don't know. All the stuff that people find funny, I'm like, but that's just mean. He's being so mean to this guy that's just trying to be nice. Like, I just.
Don't look in chat. You're getting blasted for not knowing UHF.
Fine. It's on the list now, okay? It's on the list. UHF's on the list. Sorry, everybody. So sorry. Christine Fernandez says, gosh. Yeah, I know. I've heard of it at the very least, right? It's better that I've heard of it, right?
No, that just means you're pathetic and don't do your Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Well, Odin, I'll at least say they're giving you some great 80s movies, because when I think back about the ones that won Best Picture during the 80s, I'm like, those are the movies that I sat through the one time and I'm like, okay, now we shall never speak of this again. I saw it. Chariots of Fire, I tried to watch twice and fell asleep on the same scene. So I have never seen it all the way through. And remember, Chariots of Fire beat Raiders of the Lost Ark for Best Picture.
That's right.
For 1981.
That's right.
And I'm trying to think. Oh, I was a big fan of The Right Stuff, which is about the start of the space program and breaking the sound barrier. And that is one that it got beaten by Terms of Endearment, I think, which is one that my mom had me watch one time. And I looked at her and said, I watched it. We shall not speak of this movie ever again. Terms of Endearment is stupid.
And
Out of Africa, I
okay.
think that one in 85.
Okay.
And I sat through it, and all you have to know is Robert Redford, Meryl Streep, Africa, 3 hours. That's all you need to know. So,
pretentious, whiny, pathetic. There's a few other words for it.
And also, Laura just posted a great name, said Odin's movie vlog - the 80s. I should make a
minus
separate...
the 80s.
Minus the 80s, okay. Because I was thinking, like, that should be the new channel name for sure. Or it should be an alternate channel name where I just talk 80s movies that I have to see or have just seen.
Yeah. And check out some of Tom Hanks's movies that he did before he decided, I'm going to be a serious actor now. Because one of my favorites of his is Volunteers, which I think John Candy was in. And it's hysterical to me. And I would almost rather see Tom Hanks in some of those than the ones he did, like, I'm going to get an Oscar for this. And, so check out one of those.
Yeah. You know, it's one movie, too, that I think is a very underrated John Candy performance is the Little Shop of Horrors. He has such a minor role in it as the radio DJ, but oh my God, he's so funny.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then again, anything back in the 80s that has Tim Curry is also going to be fun.
See, in my mind, Tim Curry was in two things. He was in Rocky Horror Picture Show, and then he skipped everything else. and went ahead and did Home Alone 2 Lost in New York.
If you haven't watched Clue, you need to.
Oh, Clue. I mean, how could I forget Clue? Yeah, Clue is definitely another one too. But like as a child especially, those were the two movies that were like in my head of things that he had done. And then obviously, yeah, Clue might be my favorite role that he did.
Badasses. You do realize that Tim Curry spent most of the last decade in a wheelchair from strokes, and he's actually getting back up and acting physically again in his 70s.
Wait, is he getting up now?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, because the last time I saw him, he was at what was amazing about his whole thing is that after everything he went through with his strokes, he was still going to cons. He was still going and fulfilling these appearances.
He can't walk all the time yet, but he actually has officially been walking again and acting more.
Because isn't he going to be in, oh my goodness, I'm trying to think. There was something that he was either gonna be in or maybe he was in. Wasn't there a Rocky Horror Picture Show like straight to TV movie they did, or like I
don't remember on that one, like, for
didn't
sure.
NBC do a live musical or something?
Yes.
In which they had a female playing
ago.
Frankenfurter, which made no sense to me because that kind of defeats the whole purpose.
I'll just say my whole life I've always had an obsession with Tim Curry playing bad guys in anything, because him and his voice and the way he carries himself is just magic.
Yeah.
I'm trying to censor myself here. Magic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, was actually showing clips of him with the physical therapy, actually getting up and walking and stuff and doing things again.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I love that dude. And I will say one really cool thing he did. People don't maybe realize this, but he was on Broadway. He actually performed the role of King Arthur in Spamalot on Broadway when it first debuted.
Oh.
I know. There's a movie that there's a musical I want to see just because I love what it's based on, and I love a lot of the people that have been involved in it.
Yeah. I will say this much. I think
they came over and performed where I'm living.
Yeah.
And the nosebleed freaking seats were almost $500 a person.
Wow.
And like I can't justify that. I want to so bad.
Yeah.
I love a lot of the actors in it, and they actually came over, but it's like I can't justify that much.
No, they charge way too much for those things. But I will say this much: Holy Grail is a much better movie than Spamalot is a play. I mean, I think Spamalot's funny, but I think the movie is just hands down better. I mean, obviously, it's hard to touch it, but I'm glad that the original people, Eric Idle and the entire crew, were essentially involved with the transition of the movie.
And honestly, there are worse people they could have had involved in doing a play than Niles, you know, David Hyde Pierce. Oh, by the way, if you ever want to actually see somebody make fun of Hollywood hard, look up his therapy song.
The what? Huh? What?
David Hyde Pierce did a therapy song where he's mocking the spoiled rich people in Hollywood.
Oh my goodness.
It's really good. And he introduces it going that I'm not actually a therapist. I know a lot of people seem to think I am because my friends always seem to say that, you know, if you're not in therapy, you should be. It's great. Look that one up, bro, sometime.
And Peter Sharon, I have seen the original Tron, and that was a movie that was very hard for me to get through all the way through, to be honest, because the effects are just so 80s. And I know that for the time that they were probably impressive, but I just it's very hard for me. That movie's a very slow movie. And Alex McCarthy, I have not seen Urban Cowboy, but I know what it is.
You're gonna break Tina.
Oh my gosh. John Travolta and Deborah Winger. Oh my gosh. That's what started the whole mechanized bull trend.
I know the history about it. I just don't. I just haven't seen the actual movie yet.
It's a good. It's a really good movie. Because I've never really been a John Travolta fan, which I know that may insult a lot of people, but that was one of the few movies I could watch him in. Oh, okay. Well, that was one of the few that I could watch him in. I just saw Saturday Night Fever about 6 months ago for the first time, all from beginning to end, because I was just like, I love the soundtrack when it first came out, but I was like, I can't sit through this movie. And then I watched it and I was like, yeah, I kind of see why he got an Oscar nomination for that. And
you know what, though? That's a movie I can never get. That's a movie I never understand. is Saturday Night Fever. Like
Yeah.
I watch it. I'm like, there's something just not quite connecting with me.
I don't
Yeah.
connect with me in that one. I hate the whole
Yeah.
disco era.
Yeah. It was very, very
Yeah,
bizarre.
because I like the album, but a lot of us were kind of glad when something like Peter Frampton Comes Alive. We were glad that came out because we were like, oh, thank God it's not disco. Because we were just like, disco is going to destroy Western civilization, which it probably did. I don't know.
I think there could be a case to be made that disco ruined everything.
Yeah.
Disco ruins anything it touches because it sucks. Just saying.
Disco is fun to
No,
like.
it's not.
No. What I mean is, it's fun to mock. It's fun
It's not
to
even
do.
that, because then you have to actually acknowledge this.
Yeah.
And there are some songs that I do like. I mean, as an overall genre, not a huge fan, but there are individual songs where I'll listen to it. Basically, the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack is pretty good. I overall like the soundtrack for Saturday Night Fever. But,
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
It is.
And yeah, let's not
Yeah.
break Tina because
Tommy saying disco was the basis of early rap music. That's not going to win me over. I hate rap too. So
yeah. And obviously, you all know my thoughts about rap. There's an old expression that rap is crap. And now I will say this much:
country, it's literally crap.
I think that old school rap, I would say, is pretty good, like back in the day kind of rap. Just like old school country was good too, like stuff that we call country now, but in my mind, it's not really country. There's like it's more bluegrass, or it's some variation of something, or it's someone that defined or surpassed genres in general. But modern day country is just a travesty. Absolute travesty.
He says she likes it.
Well, we got a lot of
dance, and I'm sitting there going, I'm a powwow dancer. I could dance in a jingle dress in the freaking desert in midsummer.
Stephanie B likes rap. Well, I guess she's no longer a Valkyrie.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I will grant you. Oh,
She said,
my dad is mad. Holy crap!
Wait, Tina, what was that? Tina, what?
I see one comment. She said, I like disco. Maybe it's because y'all can't dance. Oh, so she's saying because we can't dance, we don't like disco.
Bruce just mentioned Xanadu, and I just cringed at my back because that was my dad's crush when I was younger, was Olivia Newton-John, and I hated that thing so much.
I like that Laura says, I can get down. Yeah.
Hey, I spent my childhood in the roller rink, man, skating backwards.
Oh, so you know all about Xanadu then. You lived it. You lived Xanadu.
I lived Xanadu.
Roller rinks. I loved the showboat. I just didn't like the disco stuff they tried to use. I was the one getting them to use rock and metal instead.
So my experience with Xanadu is I've actually never seen the original movie, but I have seen the musical. There was a revival of Xanadu on Broadway not too long ago, probably within the last 5-10 years. And I went to go see it, got tickets on stage because it was one of those things where you get up early, go to the box office, and they have these random tickets available. And so these were actually on stage seats. It was amazing. So we actually saw the play as it went around us. And so they were roller skating all around us and everything. It was very impressive, the amount of skill that it required. But what was great is that at one point they asked the people on stage to stand up and dance. And so we're in our little boxes dancing with each other. And so I was actually sitting next to, because there was one seat still available. So one of the stagehands who got us all into the seats was sitting next to me. And so she was saying, like, by the way, there's a part of the show where you'll have to get up and dance, and you are expected to dance. It's not a choice. And I was like,
expected to dance.
And I was like, that's okay,
God.
but you have to dance with me. And that was my stipulation. She says, you got it. And so we ended up standing up, and we ended up doing the hip bumps next to each other. So we were just up there doing the hip bumps next to each other. It was hilarious. Because here was a lady who must have been probably in her 50s, retired, working for the theater just for fun. And so me and her are just up there grooving, and it was hilarious. It was great.
But that's why disco dancing is good for white people, because it's so easy. I mean, you just kind of stick your hand up in the air and shake your hips,
My personality's wrong because my taste in music does not go to that era. I like either going to like symphonic and operatic metal where they use classical and mythology and stuff in the music, or classic rock or jazz blues from like the 20s to 40s.
Mm-hmm.
See, like, disco dancing is all like side to side,
Mm-hmm.
you know. 80s dancing is kind of in the front. You got to swing your arms in the front, you know, like.
And don't forget, you got to bang your head hard enough to knock somebody out if you bump into them.
And yes, Peter Sharon mentioned this. I do know how to hand jive, and the reason why is because I was actually in a production of Grease, and so we actually had to learn it all the way through. And I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fun. So it's one thing to do the hand jive, it's another thing to actually have to do it in a dance where you're literally hopping, you're bouncing as you're doing the hand jive. And then they turned it into a partner thing where you would face out, you'd face your partner, you'd face behind. Oh, it was great. It was fun. So yeah,
read what Brad said. Who you calling white? A medium pink, like a nice steak.
It says who you calling white? A medium pink, like a nice steak. Brad is the king of trolls. That's it. And Stephanie B, I'm very sorry about that. I'm sorry. Stephanie B is obviously still a Valkyrie. She is still the general of Valkyries. And
Stephanie B is badass. I don't have to agree with her taste. I love the girl a lot. She's a sweetheart.
And her musical tastes are terrible, but she is. I'm not one to talk. I have the most bizarre musical taste ever.
Like I said, almost nobody knows any of the bands I listen to. So old or new, most of my stuff is weird, obscure stuff that people look and be like, "Who in the hell is that?" I know some of the mainstream ones in those genres, but it's mostly stuff like Snow White, Blood, Dark Sarah, stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm like one of those weird persons where I like musical theater, but then I also like one Screamo album. And I don't know why, because I don't like Screamo as a genre, but there's one album, and it's by Under Oath, and it's called Define the Great Line. And I don't know what it is about it, but it's a great album. It's the only Screamo album that I've listened to and that I like and enjoy.
I don't like Screamo because it's all it is in the music. I don't mind when they blend it with other metals.
Yeah.
But I don't like it as its own genre. However, just because it offends people because they're wimps, I'm trying to censor myself for your stream here.
Yes, thank you.
I love In This Moment's Gun Show.
Oh, I don't know that.
It's Marina Brinker, and the whole song is her screaming in your face about being proud little Old West girl with the gun show and drawing and shooting.
Oh, I thought that it would be like, bring it to the gun show. Like, lift up your arm.
No. This is a hardcore, I am an Old West gunslinger kind of song done to that style. And it freaks out the people in the little yuppie city where I'm stuck living, so I love blaring it out my car windows.
Yeah, I've been on a podcast kick lately. I haven't been listening to a whole lot of music, but yeah, I love how this all stemmed from the lack of 80s knowledge from 80s movies that I have.
Yeah, but we're having a good conversation.
Oh, it's been fun. I'm having a blast too. Absolutely. And yes, I know everyone's on Team Steph, okay, because Steph is amazing and she deserves it. And she deserves the love.
As I said, I don't have to agree with her. I have respect for her.
And Laura was right in the chat when she said, you don't want the Valks turning against you. You're right. Because without my Valkyries, I crumble. I fall.
And then wise. I mean,
Stephanie B, don't you dare leave. You are not allowed to leave, Stephanie B. Don't make me have to treat this like a fairy moment where I have to say, clap, everyone clap your hands and she'll stay. There it is, Stephanie B. She says, is it because I'm black? No.
Oh, because I'm black. She played the card.
She did. There's no coming back from that. I lose. That's it.
In my life.
Wow.
And look, everyone's now clapping in the chat because they want her to stay. Look at that. That's great.
Poor Stephanie, you make it easier to torture him. I mean,
it's not hard. I mean,
you make it easy yourself.
I do. I make it very easy. And yes, 70B, I know that's from Good Burger. And it's such a great line from Good Burger. Because Kel Mitchell says it back to Keenan.
Oh, my God.
Oh, that's so great.
Good one, Steph. That was a good one.
I know 70p, but I love it still. I love it. I love it. I love it. Tommy says you have failed. You have again failed this live stream. I know.
For the live stream.
Well, get used to disappointment, Tommy. Get used to disappointment.
Oh my god.
Poor Odin. The thing I was posting and getting emotional on the other day, because I'm talking about my obscure music here, is it was the two singers from two different of my metal bands I listened to, and they did a song together about Snow White Rose Red story.
Who?
Which one of my nicknames as a child was Rose Red.
Wait,
and
I know Snow White. What do you mean Rose Red? What's Rose Red?
I know Rose Red. Yeah.
It technically wasn't the same Snow White. It was a different story, but from the same people.
Oh.
It was the two sisters, and Snow White was the demure, delicate, kind-hearted one. Rose Red was the red-headed, loudmouth who liked to be outside and active.
Oh, okay.
I wonder why that was my nickname as a kid.
Can't imagine why.
I can't imagine.
I think I heard Disney is planning to do a Rose Red movie.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, well, that would be kind of original Disney. So
Yeah, but you know what's going to happen? It's not going to be a redhead. It's going to be...
No. You know what's going to happen is they're going to make it a feminist nightmare, which is teaching Snow to be more strong.
Of course.
That probably, yeah. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Rosetta, that's causing a lot of like crazy distortion sounds.
What is happening?
I was so confused.
I was looking in the chat and then I found a list the other day. I googled like Disney original movies and it's a very short list. I think like all the Pixar stuff, Toy Story and stuff like that, but I was like, oh my god.
And those weren't technically written by Disney. They were written by a company they were working with. Still wasn't original to them.
No, I mean the it's not based on some previous story original.
Yeah, I'm saying, but even there, they didn't really truly get something original to themselves.
Yeah. No, it's been a very long time since the last...
Sorry, I just thought of Disney screwing with my Rose Red. Just made me a little...
Oh, I know. Trust me. I mean, they mess with our stuff all the time, and it's never going to end, it seems. So...
No. Mm-mm.
If you want to see me twitching, we could go on to the other one that's been in the news the last few days that Sony wants to remake.
Oh, let's not even... No. So let me just put the record straight on that one, because Sony has not said they want to remake it. It was the CEO.
I know.
It was the CEO of Sony. Well, I have to say, because some people actually believe that it is Sony itself, but
even them discussing the possibility of it makes me want to smack them upside the head.
Oh, absolutely. Because the CEO of Sony went around and said
that Carrie smacked them down on Twitter.
Yeah, because the CEO of Sony came out and said that there were some high-level rich people in Hollywood that wanted to remake Princess Bride, which of course all of us, I believe, are like, hell no, leave it alone. As Stephanie B says,
comment from Carrie, right?
Oh yeah, it was a great comment. But 70B is saying that she's going to report me to HR, which is fantastic. I don't know who works HR for Odin's Movie Blog, but I imagine it's probably me. So I guess I'll make a note of it, Steph. I'll make a note of it. But no, so Carrie Ewells went on Twitter and says, there's a shortage of perfect movies in this world. It'd be a shame for you to ruin this one. And it's a great reference back to the movie.
Breath.
It makes a great reference to the movie line, and it's wonderful.
One of my husband's two favorite lines in the movie.
What's the other one?
Life is pain.
Ah, yes.
That actually is his caption on his different handle pages online.
Okay. Yeah, his well, let's go ahead and Laura, what are your thoughts about this rumor of someone wanting to remake Princess Bride?
Well, I used to not be in general against remakes because I don't know if you guys are familiar. Freddie Prinze Jr., he was involved with Star Wars Rebels, and he does a podcast with another guy from Hollywood. And they talk frequently about like how difficult it is to get a movie made and how, you have this vision. I guess that Freddie Prinze Jr. has been wanting to do a movie about his dad because his dad was a famous comedian, and how he would go to different
Yes.
people with a concept, and how the producers pervert what he wanted to do, and that from his point of view and listening to him, you start to realize it's like there are artistic people who want to do these great and original things, like with Aladdin, all the original stuff that they added to that. But Disney's not going to greenlight something like that unless they have that promise of return on investment, because it's a business for them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have this horrible mashup of artistic people and business people. But there should be certain things that are sacred, and for me, Princess Bride is one of those. It's like you're not going to do any better than that.
Yeah.
So,
and also too, I think people fail to realize that the reason why Princess Bride is so good is because of the budget, is because it was a box office bomb. It's because of the specific cast that they had. It's because of all of these things that some people look at and say, oh, but they could have done it. Obviously, they could have done certain things better, but that's not the point of the movie. The point of the movie is to be what it is. It was a passion project that was being done. And, I think that that's something that is unfortunately not really a focus of Hollywood today. They don't care about making individual movies. They care about making franchises. They care about trying to set up a new universe. They care about trying to do that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when that's all that you're doing, it just becomes this never-ending ad nauseum, and it starts to really frustrate. And that's why for them to try and take one of the last few movies that did not have a franchise around it, that was just as it was, is something that's going to piss off. And luckily it did. And there was a great meme, and I talked about this the other day, that someone sent me. It was JKD Buck. And he sent me a meme, and it was all the people around the round table putting their swords in the middle, and on everyone's swords were names like Democrat, Republican, centrist, Muslim, Christian, Jew. And it's so true. Every person came together because in the middle of it all was don't remake Princess Bride, because that is something that almost all people came together on and said, hell no, do not. So whatever, whoever friends that you have, CEO of Sony, make sure you tell these friends to keep their wallets closed. And if they want to actually put their money into something, why not do a 4K release of Princess Bride? Or even better, why not do a special anniversary release of the movie, the original movie, back into theaters with added additions of behind-the-scenes footage, interviews, etc. That's something that you can make money off of. That's a way you can bank on original fans and also still respect the original fan base, too.
And there is footage of Carrie when he had his arm braced because Andre got him to wreck ATVing off set.
Yep. Oh, it's great. And if you have never read his book, Carrie Yule's book, is fantastic.
As you wish.
It is wonderful. I recommend the audiobook more because he actually gets the people he interviews himself, where he gets quotes from them. He gets them to actually voice what they say. So you hear the voice of Billy Crystal. You hear the voice of Rob Reiner. You hear the voice of all these different people. And then they have a couple of people that couldn't be there, that couldn't do their voice, so they have someone else speak for them. But it's still their words. And it's truly amazing to hear all the behind-the-scenes stories. Like, you do hear about how he, hurt his arm riding the ATV. You hear about what Andre the Giant was like. You hear about how he passed out in the lobby, and they literally had to put ropes around him so that people would walk around him because he was passed out literally until the morning. And he just got up and walked back to his room. No questions asked, no comments. And also the amount of pain that he was in, having giantism that way. And it's a beautiful book. It really is. But yeah, it's something that all of us can really. And so, Tina, what are your thoughts about them trying to remake this?
I mean, I know there are certain movies that should never be remade. Princess Bride would be one. Casablanca, Citizen Kane, Gone with the Wind. It happened. Well, they did do a remake of It Happened One Night, and it was horrible. But there are some that just shouldn't be touched. And I was kind of going back through my mind, like what movies have been remade and were either better than the original or were equal to it. And I was like, okay, what have they had? The Ten Commandments. Cecil B. DeMille remade his own movie. So he had his 1920 silent version. And then he actually went to the public and said, would you like to see me remake the Ten Commandments? And they were like, yeah, and concentrate more on Moses this time. Because in the original, the Moses story is like a prologue. It's only like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So he remade the Ten Commandments. He worked with Egyptologists. He worked with Bible experts. Edith Head worked on the costuming. He brought in people that knew the subject, and he was like, we're going to expand on this. We're not only going to use the Bible, but we're going to use...
We're going to use what, Tina? Tina?
Uh-oh. Tina?
Tina.
Yeah.
Wait.
Tina.
We lost you.
And Francis X. Bushman.
There.
That is very well known from the early 20s. Well, that got remade 1959, won 11 Academy Awards. And of course, Star Trek.
Tina, you back?
Oh, no.
You had Cecil B. DeMille did a version in the 30s with Claudette Colbert. And then, of course, you had the well-known version with Richard Burton and Liz Taylor. Scarface. I was talking to Stephanie about Scarface. You had the pre-code version in the 1930s with Paul Muni. And then, of course, you had the famous Al Pacino version that all they did was updated it. So instead of Italians, you had someone who came over during the Cuban boat people when Castro opened up the prisons and started letting the criminals out, and it was just like, okay, you all can go to America too. So you had
Tina,
that.
can
Yes,
you hear
it was
us?
a whole lot more. Yes.
Okay.
I think I can. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, because
Just wondering, because your sound cut out for almost a whole minute there.
and then you came back in
Oh my
and
God.
you were still explaining, and I was like,
Oh
oh,
my gosh, I am so sorry.
That's okay.
What was the last thing you heard me say? I'm
That's-
sorry.
Oh, no.
idea. We were just worried about making sure you were here, and then you're back. We weren't sure
Oh
what
my gosh,
I
I
wasn't
don't know what happened.
I wasn't sure if it was a delayed response and we were just getting like the after effect or not. So yeah, that's
What was the last thing you heard me say?
before it
I'm
cut
sorry.
out. I can't remember because
I have
it
no
came,
idea,
it came it
sorry.
came back after. So
Oh my
And
gosh.
then you
Okay.
movies where the different remakes have been done different ways.
Yeah, I was different in different ways because I mentioned Ben-Hur, I mentioned Cleopatra, I mentioned DeMille doing his own remake of the Ten Commandments.
yeah, because we got to that part where you said that you that
Okay.
you remade it.
I mentioned Scarface.
Mhm.
There was the pre-code version with Paul Muni that was
Mm-hmm.
directed by Howard Hawks, I think. And then, of course, they did the remake later with Al Pacino, but instead of Italians, they used Cubans. Seven Samurai has been remade as Magnificent Seven.
Mhm.
Kurosawa's Yojimbo was remade as, I think, Fistful of Dollars with Clint Eastwood. And then there was another version with Bruce Willis that came out much later. So, yeah, there have been some good remakes, but they were in the hands of directors and writers that knew how to do it. Not this bunch that we have in Hollywood now.
And good spoofs. Fistful of Datas.
Yes. Yes.
My shirts I carry everywhere. I don't know what that says about me.
And I just heard yesterday they're planning on doing another remake of Nosferatu, which the first version was in the early 20s that F.W. Murnau directed. And then Werner Herzog did one, I think, in the 70s with Klaus Kinski. And now I'm hearing they're planning on doing another one. So I don't know how that'll turn out. I have no problems with the ones we have out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
that's a
Bruce
good period
Willis
between
is
remakes, you
outstanding.
know.
Yeah, but I
It's
just
also the way they approach it and which ones they touch makes a big
yeah, exactly. And I just don't think the people in Hollywood right now, they don't know what they're doing. All they're thinking is this going to make us
and money.
some money? Yeah, and can we build a franchise off of this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also Stryker the Redneck over on D Live, one of the few people watching over there today, he was laughing about the whole going in and out situation. And so he was like, now this is entertaining. It was great regardless. And then he donated an ice cream. Well, thank you very much, Stryker the Redneck, for the ice cream. I appreciate that very much. It was pretty great because I was like, Can she hear me? I have no idea.
I couldn't hear anything. I don't know. And I've got my Bose headphones on, so I don't know if it was something with them that glitched or not. I'm sorry about
Oh
that.
no, it's fine. It was fun.
Oh my God.
We were just making sure you could still hear us and that you were still
Yes,
there.
I'm still here. But no, I don't know if the guy at Sony, it was like, is this some kind of, why are you all doing this? Because people have kind of been coming out saying, hey, you all did right taking Spider-Man back, and then you go and drop this, and it's like, okay, my hatred for Sony has fired back up again. So I don't know why he can. And who are these people?
Yeah.
These unnamed people. I know I want names.
No, I was the same way, because I remember when I covered it, I was like, you know what? I want to know who these people are, so that way we can tweet at them. So that way we can, ask them questions and say, hey, let's talk about how you want to remake a movie that does not need to be remade. But I think you made a great point about how you have these movies that could be remade, right? That were made at a time when, with now the technology we have, they could be added to. But I think that obviously there are some movies that could work with that, some people that couldn't work for it. But also, too, remember, as you said, that when it's a film director remaking his own film or her own film, those are obviously situations, too, where we can say, yeah, that makes sense. With that great example of Ten Commandments.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I wish that more people in Hollywood had that kind of mindset instead of, hey, here's a franchise that never was. Let's go ahead and make it a franchise, even though no one's asking for it.
Here's a way to shamelessly suck up to an audience we don't understand and try to get their money.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's sad. It really is. And I hope it's not true. I hope it doesn't happen. We're already getting remakes like, for example, the completely unnecessary remake of West Side Story from Spielberg.
I don't even get that.
Which it's like, that's not a movie that ever needed to be remade. I mean, it was a musical.
They have a classical story anyways. It doesn't need to be made and remade.
Yeah. I mean, the movie itself was essentially the remake. And even the remake itself in the movie was a adaptation of the musical. So it's like, we don't need that story again. That's not a story that needs to be told again. Why not just have it, as I said before, why not just have it where you put your money behind re-releasing movies? That to me would be a better way of doing it. And Rosetta, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's complicated. I think they'll explain a little to the people out there, some of what you know. There's a couple things with me for Princess Bride. I have a permanent scar here on my lip that's directly related to the movie because it came out when I was little. And me and my sister decided we were going to try to reenact the cliff battle with metal tent poles. She tripped and I had a metal tent pole go through and crack 3 teeth.
Oh.
Still kept learning how to sword fight after because I loved it.
Yeah.
So there's some bias and stuff, but it has been the movie that connected me and my husband a lot when we first met, when we were friends, when we were dating. It was when we got married. Our wedding song was Storybook Story. It was the love ballad from the movie. And it's something we redo together every anniversary. And this year, you did as your stream for us for our anniversary, so we could be in here with you watching it. So it's a very special, connected thing to me. And the idea of touching it in any way, shape, or form brings out this side of me that I just don't really want to release. Because it's my connection to my husband.
Yeah.
He has gotten me all kinds of special. I have this 30th anniversary gold-bound collector's book on it that has like 200 pages of behind-the-scenes stuff written by the actors and stuff like that. The actual novel. I have all kinds of specialized coloring books and stuff like that I'm actually making special books for my husband out of and stuff. This is not something you mess with for me. Mm-hmm. This is something really special and kind of sacred in my family and my home.
Yeah.
Right. So let's just say if they decide they're going to do it, I don't think anyone's going to probably want to watch the videos and streams that are involved with that after from me.
Because it's going to be very, very explicit about how you feel.
Hyper Chick and Ex Carpenter would come out.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a lot of us can connect to that too, because I'm sure the movie means, that much to some people in the chat, perhaps, or people that might rewatch this later on, or there might be a movie that's very similar to them that means a lot too. And it's just sad that we're living in a world now where all these movies, all these classics are having to be remade, retold. I remember when there was that thought of them trying to remake, and it might still be the plan to remake movies like Casablanca, to remake movies like It's a Wonderful Life, where there are things that just don't need to be touched because they're perfect the way they are. There's not anything that can improve upon them, right? There's not anything that can be added to the story. The only thing they can do is try to, quote unquote, modernize it. But that is just a sign, especially in our over sequeled culture that we live in today. It's just a sign of the complete lack of, it's the complete laziness of modern Hollywood, where they don't want to make their new stories. They don't want to take risks anymore in Hollywood. They would rather make a sequel or a prequel or a spin-off with a already pre-established franchise group than take a risk to make their own original story that could flop. And to me, that just really shows everything that there is about it. And Stryker the Redneck, thank you for following me over on DLive, man. I appreciate you very, very, very much so.
So I was thinking about what Tina was talking about, how you can have remakes, reboots, and stuff that can be good. I think for me, it's the same way as you can use mythology, history, classic novels and literature and stuff like that in a way that's good, but you have to respect the content of it and not try to bastardize history, change who people are, stuff like that. I'm not a fan of rewriting history just for fiction. Mm-hmm. But I love using mythology in my stuff, and there's a way to do it in a way that honors the original and is still actually making it something unique and it won. Mm-hmm. But there's things I've used in my stories that, even though my stories are nothing like anything else that's come out, I'm just bored with a million other people have used. So I'm like, I don't even know if I want to bother anymore.
Yeah.
Because everyone uses the same things. And the thing is, most of these things weren't used when I was growing up and writing this stuff. And now everybody's sticking this stuff in, and it's like, no, I did it first, and I did it better, I think. But
yeah. And
just a little ego there, but it's like, do I even want to share this anymore? Because it's just gonna be another one now.
Yeah. No, I think that we all feel that way now with Hollywood, just scooping up as many stories as they can. And Vagar Torp, thank you very much for subscribing to the channel. But it reminds me, because as you said, there are some things in certain movies and filmmakers that can do justice to a franchise, right? Mm-hmm. Or can do justice to a story. And I think about, successes of that, and also, of course, the many failures. The success, I think, in my book that many people would agree with, Lord of the Rings. I think that the books were beloved, and that many of the people that love the books also appreciate the movies because they were very faithful.
And I saw the video on the behind the scenes on the show they're making, and I cringed. They're listing these people and who they are, and talk about them working on things like Suicide Squad and Last Jedi and Into Darkness and stuff. And I'm sitting there going, "Oh, holy crap! I don't want to see this."
Yeah, no, it's sad because
don't touch Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. If you can't do it right, don't touch it all. And that's also something that That's also something that doesn't need to be remade. That was just made not too long ago, and it's something that hasn't aged much at all. And so there's absolutely no need for them to remake that one. But the point I was going to make was that there's a movie that I talked about yesterday and that I reviewed on the second channel, In the Aftermath, where it repurposes anime footage, but it does it so well that it's its own unique story, but also is very much, giving a lot of attention to and a lot of respect towards the source material, because it has, I would say, a huge chunk, probably 80% of the original anime in the actual movie itself. It has these 20% intercut live action scenes. So that's a way in which you could have people, have something new based off of something else, but still paying respects to the original by having only slight alterations to the overall story.
There's things they could do with Lord of the Rings to bring in things that were important in the books that really didn't get as much as they've got. They could work on going into the Silmarillion and the stories that were supposed to be behind the people that led to Gandalf. They could go into having an expanded series on the battle for the Shire, stuff like that, and it could actually be really beautiful. Mm-hmm. But you don't need to remake what's already been made and what's already been done and what's already been done and what's already been done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep hearing they're supposed to be doing, I guess, Second Age, Middle Earth. So that would be prior to The Hobbit.
Hmm.
But I know they have, because Josiah's discussed it, I know they have one person on there who is a Tolkien expert. He's an older gentleman. I think he teaches, but he was the one that the Tolkien estate has working on there. The problem is he going to get his point across when you've got J.J. Abrams with his little nasty fingers? He's in everything. So he's got people working on it. And like you all were saying, you've got people that, oh, yeah, I worked on The Last Jedi. Well, yeah, that gives me a whole lot of faith that you're going to be able to pull off Lord of the Rings then.
Hmm.
I know, right? It's like, what the crap? I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
The problem with that expert is he supposedly worked with them when they did the movie about Tolkien too, and they cut all of his faith out. So
Yes.
I don't trust their expert either.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad, and it really is something where if they're going to do it right, do it. If you're not going to do it right, then just don't bother. Just don't
bother.
I am with Assassin 100%. You can't beat Christopher Lee portraying Saruman.
Yeah.
You can't do it. He was legend is that, and he worked so hard to keep his health up enough to do that as he was dying because it meant so much to him. Let's leave it alone.
Plus, he was the oldest person, I think, on history to release a metal album for Christmas.
He was.
Look it up.
What?
He released a metal album for Christmas, and it's wonderful.
He was in his 90s when he released it.
Yep.
That's some really good Christopher Lee knowledge.
What does it tell you that when he mentioned that I knew exactly what he was talking about and what age he was?
And it's so funny because he's doing that same like deep, amazing voice, just sustained singing and doing classic Chris mixes, but instead it's to a metal tune, and it's wonderful.
Lee was an amazing talent that we have to honor what he did in his life because he lived in 295 doing that kind of action and mythology-based stories for that long. He needs it to be treated with honor and reverence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Exactly.
So one of the things...
Well, Odin, when you mentioned... Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I was just going to say, when you mentioned remakes and like that, and you said, yeah, they thought about Casablanca and all. There has been a Casablanca sequel, but it failed. It was an NBC, I think, like 1-hour drama, and that might have been in the 80s, but it was when David Soul was still hot property. He was coming off Starsky and Hutch and everything, and he played Rick. But I think they called it like Rick's Place.
Probably.
Or something like that. But yeah, it called itself a sequel, and no, it was not well respected at all.
Yeah, because you see it happen in TV too, where you had All in the Family, and then you had the sequel series to that, which was Archie's Place, I think is what it was called. And it wasn't the same. Just wasn't the same because you didn't have the key character. You did not have...
Exactly.
If you ever go back and watch, because I used to watch that show all the time when I was younger. It was on... it was always on TV Land. And I grew up... My parents raised me on TV Land, so I watched all the original shows, Sanford and Son, All in the Family, Welcome Back, Kotter.
My obsession as a kid was Get Smart.
I love Get Smart.
Get Smart.
Remember, I am Mel Brooks nerd.
Yeah.
His first official production for TV or movie was Get Smart.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it says that I have the special collector's series in the ceiling vault case that's done to be the telephone booth.
Nice.
It's Get Smart. I had to have it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Get Smart Again? Was the movie they did in the, I believe it was late 80s for it, and it actually had John Delancey in it.
No, but I know of the Get Smart remake that they did with what's his name from The Office.
Oh, screw the remake.
I know what you're talking about.
Find Get Smart Again. John Delancey's in it.
Okay.
You remember who he is, right?
He played the lead character, right?
In Star Trek, he was Q.
Again,
I'm not.
Don't forget, I'm not a big Star Trek
If you ever saw Next Gen, the omnipotent being that tortured them,
I say I've seen handfuls of episodes of Next Gen, but
the one that put them on trial for humanity being
you're losing
basically
me. As I said, is this the lead character from Get Smart? Because that's the only thing I can know.
He was not in Get Smart originally. He was in that movie as one of the bad guys.
Okay. Yeah.
And if you need to do some Star Trek research and understand who Q is, because John Delancey is awesome. And he also writes a lot of sci-fi novels.
Okay. Well, because I know the character of Q, I just can't image it in my head. I know. I've disappointed a lot of people.
Be a nerd and not know who Delancey is. I mean, did you ever watch Andromeda?
No.
I give up.
Alex, I'll take stuff Odin hasn't watched for 1,000, please.
Odin losing
this is one of the 40 TV shows.
Please.
This is one of the 40 TV shows that Odin hasn't seen.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Jedi. All these people talk about how great it was.
I'm glad to hear that it was good.
You and Anna should do a stream where you talk about stuff you haven't seen.
We still need to do our elitist stream. We still need to do our great debate. Is Avatar a good movie stream? We still need to do our Shape of Water. Is it a good movie stream? There's a lot of things that we need to do.
As long as you all don't do rat versus mouse stream, I'm good.
Yes. That was the best thing ever. Oh, that was so great. That was one of my favorite random segues in a stream. We spent a good 20 minutes or so on that topic.
Oh my gosh. Way too long. Way too long.
It was great to read the chat too, because everyone was like, oh my God, let it go.
Oh my gosh.
It's not important. Let it go.
Let it go.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Oh, that was so funny. And then there were some people that were very much invested in the conversation too, and had their own opinions and theories about it, as both my dogs are laid out.
And I said no Andromeda, and then Soul said somebody needs to take your nerd card. It just auto-corrected him.
Oh, I must say, that's been said now, countless times that my nerd card should be taken away. I've always said
I'm going to make a nerd card with your name on it and burn it in effigy on one of our streams together.
You're gonna burn? That's okay. That's kind of scary. That's a little intense.
Just for fun, just for crazy.
So to bring the karma back a little bit, here's where River's doing right now. She's laid out on the ground again, being all cutesy. And then we have Willow doing the same thing, only she is on the couch. And so now she's laid out too. Yeah.
You're just trying to distract us from your lack of
There
nerd
you
knowledge.
go. You see, look how cute my dogs are. Don't pay attention. Don't pay attention to this box in the upper left-hand corner. Pay attention to the dogs.
He's still failing his nerd.
And to be fair, I've always called myself a movie nerd, not a all-around nerd. Though I definitely have some all-around nerd-like qualities. Like, for example, the Blu-ray collection that I have.
I have to admit, you're nowhere near the nerd I am.
Oh no, I have never claimed it. I have never claimed it. I've always been I am a movie nerd. That is what I am.
You're in some things.
Yeah. But even movie nerds have certain types or times in movie history where they don't do very well on. And
I can handle people who have the lack of this knowledge, the noobship, the normie, as long as they own it and don't try to pretend they're an expert in it.
Yeah. Also, Laura, that's perfect. You have nerd by association cred. Yes. Yes. Maybe it'll rub off on me a little bit.
I keep trying to.
And hey, I at least have a list now. Before, people would throw stuff at me and I'd say, oh, I need to watch that one day. I need to do this. I need to do that.
Yeah.
Now there's a list, and the list is, I think I've shared it before, but it is public. So
I still keep telling everybody to watch Yellowbeard just because it has so many jokes that would absolutely make these feminists piss themselves.
Yeah. And what else?
And Yellowbeard was a significant amount of Monty Python cast. So several of the people who worked constantly with Mel Brooks and Cheech and Chong working together.
Sorry, Hunky Chunky just made a great comment. Hunky Chunky just says, Odin has time to review movies and break down the box office, but no time to watch movies. All you need there is a hashtag cancel Odin, and then you've got it.
Oh, there you go.
Alex McCarthy.
Today.
And Alex McCarthy, yes, thank you for giving me that name of the list for sure. And then he says, I am the only person I know who's a big anime fan, English dub only. I'm gonna say I do like anime. I wouldn't call myself an anime fan.
I love it.
Yeah, I do like it, but being dub only, yeah, that's something that I think is somewhat unique because a lot of anime fans are very snobbish about that, about how
Yes,
they
very much so.
must have it be with English subtitles, but must be in the original language itself.
It depends on the anime. Some of them, when they dub it, they do it so badly. They change so much of the story. They over-censor certain things and try to politically correct it that you lose a lot of the story point. So it depends on the anime.
Okay.
Do not, if you ever do decide to go for more of the mainstream ones and watch like the Tenchi stuff, do not watch the dub because they take almost all the inappropriate jokes out.
Sorry, I'm just reading some of the chat. Midnight's Edge After Dark says I did hashtag cancel Odin earlier over on BHC.
People did. I was trying to tell you that.
And then Tommy says Odin's almost movie blog. I was going with Odin's not so quite movie blog. That's to
There
me.
you go.
Not so quite.
Yeah. And Glenser is right. Dubbed anime, okay. Dubbed movies, no. Yeah, I can't watch like serious movies dubbed. It just throws me off completely.
Yeah. It depends on the movie too, because
that isn't porn. You haven't seen a lot of them out there. How about Kadocha? I mean, there's almost nothing that's actually sexual in that, even though the name means an adult who's a child's plaything. It's not.
Wait, what?
That's what the word means.
You just threw that out there, and I was like,
Kadocha was a series that was designed for preteen to teen, dealing with a sixth grader dealing with life. They threw out that she worked on a show called Child's Toy, and Kadocha means an adult who allows themselves to be a child's plaything.
Why is there a term for that?
It's not as bad actually as it sounds when they try to translate it. It basically is those who are manipulated by children.
Oh, so like people that try and be their child's best friend type of thing?
Or adults who they're in a child's life and they tend to be easily manipulated and controlled by the kids.
Yeah, definitely not the way that's worded.
And so a lot of people freak out and they didn't even allow it to be played in a lot of places, even though it's not sexual.
Yeah.
Because it was assumed that it was really bad and going to be really bad.
That translation needs a little work, though. I will say that much. Bruce says that the streaming networks remove the good stuff out of anime. You have to buy it from places like Funimation or Right Stuff. Well, yeah, I mean, they edited a lot of stuff. I have been in the process of rewatching now for a long time. I've fallen behind on it tremendously. I had to cancel my Funimation account. But I was watching and trying to catch up with all the episodes of Dragon Ball and trying to watch Dragon Ball into Dragon Ball Z into Dragon Ball GT. And so Dragon Ball itself is such a dirty show. But you would never have known that watching on Cartoon Network because they cut a lot of the stuff out. But there was a lot of really sketchy things in there. And Bruce, I don't need to know that. All right, Bruce, I do not need to know that about your life. I do not need to know that, Bruce.
Bruce,
he's like, I'm talking. He's like, I'm talking to Blake, and I'm like, yeah, but I saw it. I saw it, and I don't need to know that. Well, let's go ahead and talk about something that I know at least one person wants to talk about because they recommended it. So, Laura, let's go ahead and start with you. So, Laura, you just finished watching Carnival Row? No, Laura? No, Laura?
I was going to say, is she?
Oh, she's got time for the chat, but she doesn't have time for us? Is that how it's going?
Oh, she's got the mute on. Okay.
I was about to say, it's probably dogs or she's talking with somebody, but I hope that she's hearing all the things we're saying because that just makes it that much funnier. But Laura, or rather, Tina, have you seen Carnival Row yet or any episodes?
No, I haven't. And
Okay.
I think the reason why I'm kind of holding back on it is I was trying to get more reviews from normal people because I wasn't sure if it was going to go woke or not. And I don't have time to waste to be like, oh, okay, this went woke real quick. So I saw the trailers for it. And because it had that kind of steampunkish feel to it, I was like, oh, I might like this. But have you seen it yet?
I watched all of it, yeah. And I have some thoughts on it, but I want to see what...
okay.
So, Rosetta, have you seen it yet at all?
No.
Okay. So, let's see. Laura, you back yet? Well, I timed that change of subject perfectly, but yeah, so I have seen all of Carnival Row, and there's definitely parts of it that drive me crazy. There's parts of it, and I've made it very clear about how I feel. I think that the nudity and the sex scenes in the show are complete. There's scenes where you're like, okay, it's adding to the story a little bit, but for this, the way it's shot and the way they're presented, it's literally like, okay, this is completely unnecessary. They just added these scenes to have nudity in it. And it's just, I just hate when shows do that, especially when it's like, we're on HBO or we're on Amazon Prime and we get to be adults. We get to, push the boundaries. And it's like, you don't have to, though. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should or have to. And so I just, those parts of the show kind of took me out of it where I was like, okay, this is completely unnecessary.
She's
but
back.
The rest of the show itself, cool. So the rest of the show itself, though, is, I think, for the most part, pretty good. I like the character development. I like the character arcs themselves. And yes, Carnival Row is a great title for it, Laura. So, Laura, since you're back now, Laura, what are your thoughts on Carnival Row?
That's funny. I knew exactly what you were talking about. I was like, okay, so nobody kisses in this movie. They cut scenes, and it's like people bouncing on top of each other.
I know, right?
And it's like, what? That's not a love scene.
Yeah.
I think there's only like one legit love scene in the whole series.
Yeah.
There's like 2 sex scenes every single episode.
Yes. And they're random and weird.
Like, I'm sorry.
No, it's just they're random and weird and completely unnecessary.
And it's like, it's set during kind of like Victorian periods where, it's like, do these people even have birth control? How is this happening?
No,
be like babies everywhere.
Had 10 to 16 kids.
Yeah.
That's why my grandfather was one of 16 kids.
Oh, wow.
I still want to know how they found time to make them in a one-room homestead or shack, but...
Yeah. So overall, though, what with Laura, with other than those scenes themselves, how did you like the show?
Oh, it's fantastic, and it's so funny because it's woke AF. I mean, it is like one of the episodes is actually titled like "Unaccompanied Fairy." It's like they make no bones about they're trying to do a message about immigration, but it's so well done. You're just like, I'll just ignore that.
Yeah, and for me too.
I don't ignore it well.
Yeah, for me, I think that the characters are pretty good, and that kind of helps to move past those references. But also, the immigration that they're doing is old school immigration. It's old school, old world immigration, and so that's why when people
quarantine people and actually check them out before you just let them in.
And so for me, I was like, there's some people I think that you could definitely see, okay, there's definitely some immigration messaging going on here. But for me, because it has to do with not just old school, but also legal immigration and people that legally immigrate being treated poorly. That to me kind of is like, I could see you I can see how you might take it a certain way, but I'm also like, but I don't really think that it's as preachy as some people might think that it would be, There's
like all the humans, all the white people are bad. I mean,
that's a good point.
I think the police chief is a fairly decent guy, and he's from the TLJ movie, the Captain Kennedy at the beginning.
Yeah.
But
even
I love him.
even he turns bad when he finds out about one of the characters.
It's interesting how the people who make these things only like white people if they're, pretending to be minorities or attacking other white people.
Yeah.
And it really makes it fun for people like us who are legitimately mixed race and pale to be able to defend our culture when these people are out there faking stuff constantly for attention.
Yeah. I also thought it was interesting how the fairies in the show all have Scottish accents, but then they kind of go away a little bit towards
Oh my god!
as the series goes on, or they're just not as pronounced. Like the girl Cara Delevingne, who's the lead in there, it was actually surprisingly good for her because I just haven't been impressed with a lot of the stuff that she's done. But she was actually pretty good in the show. But she had a very rich Scottish accent that seems to like kind of fade a bit as the show goes on, where it's not as pronounced. And I'm like, oh, I was so happy with your legit sounding Scottish accent because I think she's actually from the UK. But I don't think she's Scottish. I think she might be English. But it sounded pretty good, and then it kind of just went away, it seemed.
See, I love the one. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, kind of a rogue.
Wait, kind of a what?
It's kind of like a working class kind of.
Yeah.
I like the voice he does. It's very good.
Yeah.
I think with accents, it's like if you can't train the actor to do one, then just eliminate it. Because Brad Pitt got torn to pieces. What was it? The Tibetan movie that he made because he was trying to do a German accent, and Harrison Ford did a horrible Russian accent in that K-19, The Widowmaker, and it was like you all should have just put him out there, just let him talk like Harrison Ford, and forget it. But I think the worst one I heard was Colin Farrell in Alexander the Great.
You sick of wine.
Then you've lost control in your chat, by the way.
Oh, trust me, I've seen a couple of the comments, and I'm like, oh
and
boy, they're really.
Made me fall out of my chair.
I was like, y'all, they're really talking about it, aren't they?
Because
yes,
right after I went on my rant about people pretending to be minorities and make it hard for us who are mixed race, said it sounds like Beto O'Rourke will get his own Amazon show.
Oh Lord. I was talking about the comments before that. I was talking about the comments above it where Stephanie B. My Valkyrie puts an inappropriate image in the chat talking to Bruce.
I know. I saw that.
Yeah.
I've actually
spell out of a certain word too.
Yeah, and Listwitz over on DLive actually has a great point, which some people in the chat might appreciate, saying it's no worse than Sean Connery as a Russian in Hunt for Red October.
True. And most people want to complain about it. Russian culture there, they are still part of the edge of Asia. They are still actually part of the Asian roots.
Hunt for Red October.
They still have that minority roots. They're just in a cold enough area. Their skin adapted pale. So again, people assume a lot of stuff based on a glimpse at your skin. They don't know.
Yeah, they don't. And that's why it is an interesting dynamic where people will look at skin color and make judgments, but oftentimes those judgments are not based in actual reality themselves, right? So they'll look at someone.
My dad this morning, he's very clearly a big burly native guy.
Yeah. Well, also too, I mean, you look to people like, for example, you all know I'm a huge fan of Tim Pool in the Tim cast, and he is mixed race, but everyone talks about him and says that he's white. But then you've got other people that are also mixed race who are not called white but are called black. And like, what's his name on Twitter who got in trouble recently for promising money and then didn't get the money or something like that? Someone who's like been criticized a lot for not being authentic to who he is. He's a big part of Black Lives Matter on Twitter and everything. Sean King. And so like Sean King, skin tone wise, is the same exact skin tone as Tim Pool, but no one has a problem calling Sean King African American.
His family already debunked that there's no black in him.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's stuff you can look into for that for sure. And but even if we assumed, even if we gave benefit of the doubt that in his history there is African American culture there, it is just interesting and fascinating that we live in a country and a society where the color of your skin is how people identify you and not what your actual heritage is. Like, for example, some people saying, "Oh, I'm African American," but then they don't have any family from Africa. Like it's from maybe Barbados or
That's
maybe
right.
it's from Haiti,
Yes.
where it's like
Yeah.
that's not actually a part of that direct culture, right? And it's just interesting, right? How we've now swapped things like African American with black, and now they're synonymous, when in reality that's not the case. Like, there are people from different parts of the world that have similar skin tones but don't have the same background.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
and the thing is also, these are the same people who defend Elizabeth Warren time and time again, but yell at me, calling me white, and telling me I'm not allowed to be Native. I actually have the tribal membership here.
Yeah, and also too, you can easily connect to someone in your lineage that
Mhm.
is Native American, unlike her, where she has to take a 23andMe attempt, and all it says is, "Oh, she might be 1/1654th Native
my
American,
God.
maybe," because even then they admit, saying this is put up against people, not just Native Americans, but are actually put up against cultures that could be from South America. And like, so it's like, so
I
even
have never done a genetic study on any North American tribes ever.
yeah, exactly, and that's why it's impossible to know that
That
way.
science, the tribes that they're claiming she's from, there's no genetic testing ever done in to verify.
Yeah, exactly, and that's why, you know, for them, for people in
Why
Native
the
American,
tribe all rejected her and said that they're not taking that test. Also, by the way, the person who did it worked with her for years and is a friend of hers.
yeah, and that's why for the tribes, it's all about being an actual member and not about simply your blood levels. It's all about being
Right.
and so she obviously can't connect there, and yet she claimed it and used it and abused it really to get success and to find success, which is why
She stole tribal money.
yeah, and that's why I really honestly believe that if someone like her were to win the nomination, that she would get destroyed by Mr. Toxic Masculinity himself, Donald Trump, because he would just keep coming back to that one point and would hammer it home. And
No, but every time I want to defend him on something, he has to open his mouth or start tweeting. If he does something good, he then tweets and makes it less good.
yeah, I mean, there's we could go on and on about the many downfalls.
This is why I can't.
For sure. But no, I like how Brad says 23andMe says I was effed. Well, I think that speaks volumes, Brad, about you as a person.
There's two things. 23andMe has been caught storing things they vowed they wouldn't store, and keeping databases on people that sign papers saying they're not allowed to keep it. The one run through Ancestry is run through a group that works with government healthcare all over the UK, and they're warehoused next to the NSA database in Utah. I don't trust either.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, they're definitely trying to collect stuff, and you know that they're handing it over to government agencies.
Well,
yes.
my
anyways,
my DNA was already stored anyway, because we had to, when I was working, we had to do buccal swabs because when we did when the lab would do DNA analysis, it has gotten so delicate now that just breathing on evidence can affect it, because you are spreading DNA to it. So the lab required us to turn over samples. Now, some of the techs balked. They were like, I don't know if I want to do this. And the lab was like, well, if you don't do it, the analysis won't get done.
Yeah.
So I had to sign paperwork
this is evidence
saying, here you go. So, and I have no idea where that is, where that went, you know.
Yeah.
And 23andMe, mine came back pretty much the way I expected, African and British. But for some reason, I have like this 0.002% that's Asian. And I'm like, where the heck did that come from?
But this is real evidence. This is signed by the head of the tribe, verifying the birth certificate and tribal lineage to multiple family members on the back.
Yeah. And that's why you
That's
need that.
real evidence.
And that's what's fascinating to me, is that how was she able to get away with saying she was Native American?
Colleges do not. It started with college because she wanted the scholarships, and because so few people from the tribes can actually get off the res to try to get to schools.
Yeah.
Or try to get out, because most of the reses are third world conditions, and there's no way to really get out unless you're like hiking through the deserts.
Yeah.
So a lot of the colleges will take anybody who claims it without even trying to check it because they can't get enough people to even try to meet the quotas the government's putting in. So they don't check people when they say it.
Yeah. And I was looking back over because my family, we can actually date ourselves back to the Canary Islands. We actually have family that come from the Canary Islands, which is a mixed race.
Oh, wow.
Where it's it's Spanish and African is the mixed race there. But it did show up at one point. So during my ancestry, I went the alternate route. I did ancestry.com a few years back. And so it showed up initially, but now it's not showing up anymore. So I think that's interesting that has since gone away. But yeah, I'm mostly Irish, Scottish, 45%. And then English, Welsh, Northwest Europe, 34%, 14% France. And then, interestingly enough, 2% Swedish and 2% Germanic Europe. But I'm German.
Is Irish. My husband is Scotch-Irish Swede.
Okay.
Actually, my husband is a direct descendant of the adopted son of Henry Morgan.
Oh.
So I actually have a little sympathy for Elizabeth Warren because my entire life I was told that we were Cherokee on my mom's side, and started doing a little ancestry, DNA, and doing some research back, and couldn't find any proof of it. There was.
They've never studied the tribe, so they wouldn't find any proof if there was any.
Yeah.
And so what we ended up finding was he was part of a lot of like organizations and groups for Native Americans, but I don't know if it would show up on a DNA test, but we could never find any proof of it.
I will tell you, most people, if their families have been here a few generations, have some Cherokee at some point. The Cherokee culture was, I guess, trying to describe it's a little closer to the hippie free love, more pacifistic than most of the other tribes. They were more open to intermixing with the settlers. And I have Cherokee roots too. Actually, I have quite a few Cherokee roots. It's one of the highest blood counts of me besides the Sioux. So they tended to be more willing to interact and share culture than a lot of the other tribes. A lot of the other tribes were a little more guarded.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have native blood, statistically, it's more likely to be Cherokee. And that's nothing against any tribe or anything like that. That's just the way the cultures worked and how they interact.
You're just saying the Cherokee like to get around. That's all you're saying.
No, but my sister would be a good example of that. That was true. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Throwing the shade. 70B. Oh, that's great. 70B just says, "I'm just black." The end.
The thing for me is I love
more than that.
I love studying the cultures and the history and the mythology behind these different things. And I don't care if somebody's genetically something or not. If they're truly raised in that culture, if they were adopted into that culture, if they were taken into that culture, and that's who they were raised as, that's what they grew up as. That is their culture. That is who they are.
Yeah.
That is not what I'm saying, Bruce.
I don't say, yeah, Bruce. I'm
trying to explain this as nicely as I can. It's just their viewpoints of marriage and intermarrying with other cultures wasn't as strict. A lot of the tribes had, if you accept our laws, if you accept who we are, all that, you're one of us, you're part of the tribe, you're welcome.
Yeah.
But they were they didn't really care if you took their laws in as long as you weren't openly trying to break the laws or do something while you were there.
Yeah. And going back to what Steph had said is that earlier she had said that she would not give up her DNA for free. So I think that's why the comic came out.
Yeah.
Because she's like, this is all I need to know. I don't need to know anything else. And so this is all that we will say.
I came out of IHS. There's nothing I'm going to try to find that I don't know from family documents because I know what the government does when they have my information.
Yeah.
And what they do to me when they have control of anything.
Yeah, I don't trust them. I don't trust them one bit. And yet they're listening in on this conversation now. And to them,
they
I
are.
don't think you'd be saying screw you to them.
And I will say, please don't audit me. Not because there's anything wrong, but because I just don't want to have to do it.
Blame her, and then you're good.
It's like, not that there's anything wrong. Like, we're all good on our end, but I don't want to have to deal with you right now because you're a part of our life every day. Every time I buy something, I'm reminded of that fact.
That's when you just go, I do not endorse her hatred of the government. I'm just sitting here enjoying it.
and Brad Noble is the king of chaos, and so Brad Noble says that this is the best Odin stream ever. He loves chaos. He loves it.
There's a saying, if you interact with the tribes and the reservations a lot, because again, where I grew up here in South Dakota has the most reservations and the largest reservations in the country. And there's a saying, is the most dreaded phrase to any native. I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, no, you're not. Leave me alone.
There's a reason that's infamous as the most dreaded statement.
Yeah. Oh,
and
for
to
sure.
the point where there's shirts, clothing, whole lifestyle here about that.
Yeah. And that's why I keep going back to important things that we need to know and need to be aware of. And that's why one of my favorite movies of the last 5 years is Wind River, because it tells a story that no one's ever heard before outside of that culture, right?
Thunderheart is my tribe. To listeners' comment there about Thunderheart happening in South Dakota, that is my tribe. And Val Kilmer, when he actually acted in that, actually did a lot of outreach stuff for the tribe and helping people out, as opposed to Costner, Kansas Wolves, Costner.
Oh gosh, yes. We know how you feel about that movie.
Val Kilmer actually was very honorable in how he treated people here.
That's good.
Really good to them.
That's good. Yeah, Hunky Chunky says, I'm not going to make a joke about freely giving my DNA to certain people. I is polite. Dirty man. Dirty pool, old man.
It doesn't count as not making the joke if you're intentionally phrasing it in a way to make the joke, to make the statement.
I know, but it's still fun. It's still
I know,
fun
I'm just telling Hunky that because,
Well, they don't call him a hunky chunky funky monkey for nothing, man, I tell you. It comes with a territory with a name like that. But I guess before we wrap things up and with any last minute thoughts, what are your overall thoughts? And I want to go through the panel once again on Rambo, of all the controversy surrounding Rambo recently. So we'll start with Tina. We'll start with Tina. Tina, what you got?
Rambo is one of those franchises like Fast and the Furious where I remember seeing them, but I couldn't tell you which one they were. I remember seeing First Blood, and I really enjoyed it because it did kind of reflect the whole image of what vets have gone through when they've returned from a war and how they're often not respected. So I got First Blood. The other ones then just kind of launched into the whole action mode. And hey, I love seeing Rambo kick communist butt in the one movie. And I love the one where he goes and rescues the POWs. I thought that was fantastic. And whatever the last Rambo movie was before this one, I enjoyed it because it was action-packed. So with this one, all this nonsense about them looking for stuff that's probably not there because they're on their little political high horse. No, I can't wait to hear your box office because I hope the movie does well, if only to rub it in their faces. I don't know that I'll go see Last Blood, but at this point, it's like, it doesn't matter. I just want to go see. I want people to just get out there and see it and screw these idiots with their political agendas.
Yeah.
Oh, we can't see this because he's too white. Oh, we can't see this. No, forget that stuff.
Yeah.
You all are just ruining a racist viewpoint of the life they have.
And
don't support people based on their race. Is there anything more racist?
Yeah. And I do have a sad spoiler in that Rambo Last Blood came in at third place this weekend behind Ad Astra and Downton Abbey, which owned the entire weekend, 31 million.
Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, that's great. I was thinking, Downton Abbey will be lucky it makes like 20 or 30 million.
It's
this
more
weekend at
popular in the U.S.
Festival.
than you would think. It's very popular, and
And
so
that amazes me. Well, I'm
yeah.
glad Rambo at least is in the top three. But
I'm sad
wow,
it lost to Ad Astra. Ad Astra is a
I
slow
am
burn,
too.
like high end film that I feel like a lot of people wouldn't be drawn to. And Rambo is Rambo, but the only good news I can say is that it's doing better than 2008's Rambo by about $1 million. But that's not with inflation. But
Okay,
that's not with inflation. So it could very well
okay.
be the worst performing of them so far. But
Right.
yeah,
But no, I just don't think. See, when I saw the trailer to Ad Astra, I was like, this looks really good. And then I started hearing Brad Pitt was coming out talking about, oh, yeah, this is all about toxic masculinity and all this stuff. And I was like,
yeah,
okay, Brad, you put me off your movie.
yeah.
Um, I might see it on home video. I don't know. But no, I think with Rambo, it's like the Joker movie. These people are so ramped up in their own little racist little minds and don't even realize that they're racist. It's like, no, people go see what you want to see. Don't listen to the critics a lot of the stuff, because they read their reviews and see what they say.
Mm-hmm.
And before you go to see it, and if they're all into this, oh, I'm saying this is very anti-Trump or this is pro-Trump, whatever.
Yeah.
And just judge it on your own. But I don't know that I've never paid to see a Rambo movie. I've always waited for home video, and it'll probably be the same with this one.
Yeah, probably. I can understand why a lot of people might feel that way. I know Alex McCarthy might not feel that way, but I can definitely understand why some people might, for sure. Laura, what you got on Rambo? Okay, well, thank you, Laura.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I was trying to unmute and I kept hitting the wrong thing. I almost turned the camera on, and that would have been god awful for everybody. No, I remember when the original came out in the 80s, and it was a huge thing for, vets and people with PTSD, and it was a very emotional movie because of that,
Mm-hmm.
when he breaks down towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
But, it shows how far the culture has gone, that you can't have an action movie
Yeah.
without people, making these horrific allegations. But no, I'm not following Grace Randolph anymore, because she always saw different movies differently than I did. This was why I followed her. But she blocked several people in the fandom menace, and for nothing, for no reason.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, why are you on Twitter if you don't want feedback?
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Exactly.
especially
Well,
if you're going to
they
block
want
people that
to
haven't
avoid-
even talked to you, right? I mean, that's I think what it comes down to. It's one thing if you're blocking people where they're harassing or they're being asshats or something, but if you're just going to block someone who hasn't even contacted you at any point, it's just, what?
I mean, I can't tell if the movie is racist or sexist because I haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah.
it's like, give people a chance to go see the dang movie.
Oh, yeah. For sure, absolutely. And I think that, that's definitely been the situation for a lot of people, is that, and I'm kind of wondering and kind of concerned that critics might still have some power left where they might be able to influence just enough people to be able to determine the success or failure of a film. And that's why, sites like Rotten Tomatoes, people always say Rotten Tomatoes is nothing, but a lot of people still go to Rotten Tomatoes.
Absolutely.
And they look at those scores and they think that they are gospel. And some people are smart and they can say, okay, I'm looking at both scores together because that gives me the most overall picture of whether it's a good film versus whether it's entertaining as a film. But the critics have become so militant in their politics where they just artificially drive these scores down to the bare bottom. And then that's all that people see. Most people don't dive into the reviews to see why they hate the movie.
Right.
It's sad. So Rosetta, what you got?
I mean, I'll put it this way. I'm not really much of an action girl, mostly because I like a lot more plot than they usually have as a general. Same reason I'm not really a horror girl. But it's an action movie. They're complaining that an action movie has violence and dealing with things like drug lords and stuff. Well, it's an action movie. Duh.
Yeah.
What are they supposed to do? Fly around and go, "Ooh, you're a friend. I'm not going to shoot you." It's an action movie. It's blood, guts, and people shooting each other. What do you want?
Yep, absolutely. And it's something that we look to and we say, why is it that our culture has just become so sensitive? You know, where you can't even just have. Wait, was that?
Because they're all pathetic. They've all been raised with this, "Here's your trophy. You're special. Go take selfies" attitude. I went through the hills the other day, and there's about 10 people out of their cars trying to take selfies next to the bison, and I'm just sitting here going, "Really? You really want a Darwin Award today, don't you?"
Yeah.
Really?
There was a great scene. I was at dinner with my wife and her parents the other day, and when they were coming in to visit, and we were just sitting at the table, and we looked outside, and we saw a group of about 20 people all on their phones in a line. And it was the most amazing sight. And me and my wife think that they were playing Pokemon Go or something, where they were playing a game. But still, the fact that you had this group of people that were obviously together, all of them in like almost a straight line, but they all were glued to their phones. It was pretty crazy. And Laura added in the chat saying Grace was very pro Phantom Menace. So at one point in time, it sounds like she was. So that's interesting that she decided just to, you know, and again, you can be pro or anti Phantom Menace as long as you're a sensible person. You know, that's, I think, all that we really asked for.
The problem is, just attacking in the movie just because, white man bad,
Yeah.
And then just attacking and belittling anybody who's stating or posting opinions you disagree with, or blocking people when they post an opinion when they haven't even talked on your post with you.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, I block people constantly because they're either insulting people, acting like 2-year-olds, or just pathetic little putzes. But it's not just out of the blue. They do something to earn it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Stephanie B says, all men good.
And we need to start a hashtag save redheads.
I am
Seriously.
for lightning. I support toxic masculinity. I like my men strong and badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Laura, thanks for checking in. Yeah, so my back is doing a little bit better. But yeah, we're at the 2-hour mark, so let's go ahead and just go around. So, Laura, any last minute thoughts or comments?
Yeah, I mean, despite what we were saying about the Carnival Row, I'd really like to encourage people to check it out.
me
I mean,
too.
just
Yeah.
if you have problems with sex scenes, just be aware. They just come on suddenly. You're just like, oh my God, it's happening.
Oh, they're naked. Oh boy. Okay, that happened.
Ever since Lord of the Rings, Orlando Bloom's just been one of those actors, because he kind of came out of nowhere, but he's always been one of those actors I've cheered for, and he really sinks his teeth into this role.
Yes.
I mean,
You ever want to fall asleep to him, try to watch Elizabethtown.
Well, Elizabethtown was filmed here in Kentucky, and I actually got a glimpse of Brad of him at one point. I was coming back from a crime scene. It was about 4 a.m. and I'm sitting at a stoplight heading back to headquarters, and glanced over, and I was like, oh my God, that's Orlando Bloom over there. And he was standing in front of the Brown Hotel, which is a historic hotel here. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I headed on back to headquarters and said, guess who I saw on the way back?
And it's not a bad movie. It's just really slow.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's not a bad movie. In fact, it's kind of funny, his suicide machine at the beginning.
What?
Is he beautiful, Tina? Is he as beautiful as he is in the movie?
Well, just kind of from the glimpse, I was like, yeah, he looks pretty good. Because I'm always thinking him as Legolas, though. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's that blonde hair.
He always looks weird to me without the ears.
Yeah, that's right. But I can definitely back Laura on that the show is definitely very good. And as I said, other than the sex scenes, that's really the only major critique I have, because even if I could dive in and talk about woke elements to it, they get overshadowed by the tremendous acting and the tremendous character development. And I could definitely recommend it for sure.
Yeah, it's that's the thing. It's like there's a scale,
Yeah.
like a horizontal line and a vertical line. It's like how woke is it versus how good is it?
Exactly.
If the wokeness gets above the goodness, then you just turn it off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If something's focused on being woke more so than being good, that's when you give up on it. But if it's a good balance, then you can probably get through it. And this one is definitely, I would say, more good than it is woke, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that it even comes close to crossing the other line of not being able to watch it. So,
Right.
I love how the one gay character, the female who's gay,
Yeah.
works in a brothel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not gonna happen. So I was just like, that is an interesting turn.
Yeah.
Didn't see that.
Yeah. Well, it just shows you just how little they understand.
Or she's just a very kind of liberal person. She's just like, whatever.
I mean, she does make it clear in the show that to her it's a job. So,
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point.
Rosetta, what you got? Any last minute thoughts?
This is going to be a very busy week. I will be back out in the Badlands in a couple days here, depending on weather, which day. And there are, if people can see, shots that I took down ravines from hike points way up in the tops, which I'll be doing more of. And Sunday I will be up on top of Crazy Horse. So they aren't doing the extended hike anymore because they fixed that trail, but it's still over 6 miles up a mountain. So it's going to be interesting. And other than that, I'm actually finally going to be able to go home in just over a week.
Yeah.
Which means sometime in the first few days of October, I need to have a big, long welcome back stream. And of course, have to have anybody I can, like you and them, over there at some point.
Well, if
This
it's
is my way of making you hear it publicly, so you can't have excuses that you didn't know.
Oh no, I know, but normally it's at a time that I'm going to bed. So
Oh no, this is not going to be my nighttime streams. This is going to be trying to have a long, several-hour party through the day for coming home.
Okay. Well, if as
So
long
we'll try
as
to
it happens
multiple
at a
time
time
frames.
that I can, then I'm definitely down for jumping in. But it's all about making sure that it's actually happening when I'm available, because that's usually when I'm either working, because
I usually start at like 10 p.m. and go until like 4.
Yeah, and it's like I was at bed around 9, so
You're get me my post the night before about my sleep.
so I'll get the message the next day, and I'm like, I was asleep, so I just I had no chance. I had no chance at all.
I'm a night owl. What can I tell you?
Because there's a couple of people that always send me messages during the day, and I get the StreamYards link, and it's like, I'm at work. It's like, I do have a day job, guys. Come on.
I'm still going to send you messages during the day.
Oh no, messages are okay, because when I have a break, I can go and I can respond to them when I can. But I can't jump on a stream. It's like, yeah, I can't jump on that stream because I'm working. And
You work as a teacher. I do photography and art. So this stuff,
Yeah.
when I'm out there hiking and trying to fight, climb over steep ravines with rattlesnakes down it and stuff, that's work.
Yeah, for sure. And Laura, I really should probably have to do that. Set an alarm so that way I have to stretch. For me, it's been my back, but also it's been my bum. It's been my bum a little bit, sitting down for so long. I think that what killed me was Friday, though, because we were sitting down pretty much all day. And so it's better today than it was. Friday was awful. That's why I was getting like hour and a half into the Nerdrotic stream, and I was like, I cannot sit anymore. And I was just like, I'm no use to this conversation anymore anyways. But I'm feeling a little bit better today. But yeah, definitely am getting towards the edge of comfort on my end for sure.
Right.
Tina, what you got?
Yes. Well, a couple of things Stephanie mentioned in the chat. Remind everybody about the change in the Monday schedule.
Yes, so likely no stream tomorrow, and that might be permanent because now I'm streaming 4 days a week, and that's a lot. So I think I'll have it be Tuesday, Friday on Nerdrotic's channel, Saturday. And so definitely no stream tomorrow unless something crazy happens and I have to jump on. But I need a little bit of a break. Need a little bit of a detox from the, not like detox. Makes it sounds bad. But, you know, I don't want to burn out. I don't want to burn out because it gets very. It's not tedious because it's fun, but I don't want it to stop being fun. And one of the ways to do that is to, you know, put a little more space between it. So
Exactly. Well, the only thing I have to add was we had something cool at our book club on Tuesday night. Our book for the month was Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which was written by Hunter S. Thompson, who is a Kentucky native. And our hostess was able to get Hunter Thompson's son, Juan, to come to the book club meeting. And of course, I kept joking in my head, and I joked to a couple of people, I never knew Hunter S. Thompson ever came down off drugs long enough to even have a child. But he did. And he named his son Juan because he said John was too common. His middle name is Fitzgerald, which was for Hunter Thompson's, one of his favorite writers, F. Scott Fitzgerald, and also for John Kennedy. And I listened to the book twice on Audible, and there were parts I liked and there were parts I didn't like. And Juan said Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is not one of his favorite books that his dad wrote. But he said, I appreciate you being honest, because a lot of people are like, oh, I just love that book. That is just such a great book. And he said, well, I appreciate you being honest and saying you had mixed feelings. He said, so do I. But I asked him about the stream of consciousness writing in the book. And Juan said, when you go and look at the manuscript, his dad was very careful on how he wanted things worded. Said if you look at the manuscript, you'll see notations, you'll see where he interchanged one word for another. So the book was more polished than it feels when you're reading it or when you're hearing it. So it was kind of interesting. It seems that Kentucky doesn't recognize Hunter Thompson all that much. I think in Kentucky we're more into, yes, Muhammad Ali came from here. We have other people that came from here. We have buildings downtown that have these enormous blown up photographs of people from Louisville and from Kentucky. And Hunter S. Thompson is not among them. And every year they try to have a Gonzo festival to say this is a man who put this different twist on journalism, and he's more recognized in the rest of the world than he is in his own home state. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I would kind of like to read his book on when he wrote with the Hells Angels. I think that sounds really fascinating, but it was really nice to have his son there and to talk about his dad very honestly, and to say, yeah, there was Hunter S. Thompson, the Gonzo journalist, and there was Hunter S. Thompson, the dad, and I had to learn how to separate that. So it was fun. That was probably the best book club meeting we've had.
Very cool. And I think that's have you ever seen the movie?
Yes, I looked at the movie Monday night because our meeting was Tuesday. Juan does not like the movie because he said it played too much into the whole drug aspect of it, and it was like towards the end, it kind of got philosophical. And he said, yeah, he didn't care for it much. And for me, there were some moments in there, I was like, if I had walked in on that as a crime scene, I would have tendered my resignation, because it was just, I was like, oh my God.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it was really interesting, because I had never read any of Hunter Thompson's books before, and that's kind of a shame considering he's from my home state.
Yeah, and also I'm glad to hear that this is a very positive experience from the book club, because we've had months in the past where it's been a little rough.
Yeah, and I mean, because we've had people show up and, oh, I didn't read the book, or then we had the one we read about Cuba, and we had the meeting at a Cuban restaurant, and it was so loud that when I was going to lead the discussion, I just got up and said, there's a couple of scenes in here that reminded me of Godfather 2. That's all I've got. But that's all I've got. So I'm prepping for our book for next month, and it's already started out to be a slow read. I heard the movie might be better,
Okay.
so I'll see.
Oh, what is it?
Yeah, what is it?
Next week?
Next month's book is Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman, and I know there's a movie version with Nicole Kidman and
Yeah, actually, the movie's kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It is definitely got that creep factor. It's one to watch around Halloween time if you're going to do it.
yeah, because next month will be our Halloween meeting, so it'll all kind of tie in together. But I've started like 4 pages, and I'm like, God, I'm already bored. I hope this picks up some. So
Just put it this way: Nicole Kidman plays a good witch.
okay. Well, I'm kind of curious. I might try to watch the book when it's over, when I finish reading it.
Is there a Hocus Pocus book? Could you guys switch over?
Yeah, we started voting on these. Like, we voted on them last year. And what's so funny is the people that chose the book, they end up not showing up when we're discussing it. And it's like, why do you throw these books out here? So I offered, now my books for next year that I said vote on them. Z, which is about Zelda Fitzgerald. And this is the 50th anniversary of the release of Valley of the Dolls. And I was like, I think we ought to read Valley of the Dolls because the movie is so over the top campy. I would love to read the book. So it's like, please pick one of my books this year for next year.
My daughter's an English major. She's obsessed with Zelda Fitzgerald. She wanted to go to North Carolina just to see the asylum where she was staying at.
Yeah. I saw the Amazon miniseries.
I was going to ask.
Zelda,
yeah, I was going to ask if you had seen that.
Yes. And it was really interesting because it seems like she had a whole lot more talent than people gave her credit for. And Scott Fitzgerald may have, quote unquote, borrowed a few of her things for some of his books. I don't
That's
know.
what my daughter believes that. She believes that Zelda was his ghostwriter.
Wow.
Oh, writers borrow each other's work all the time.
Oh.
You should read a lot of classic sci-fi and see how many specific things are in a certain book, and then suddenly show up in shows and books like a decade later. Like the whole, Federation and Key First Human League being in Star Beast in 54.
Okay.
That's really common in that era of writing.
Right. Yeah, we read Great Gatsby a couple of years ago. That was the first time I had ever read it, and I knocked it out like in 3 days. It was just like, I've never read anything by Fitzgerald. My mom, that was one of her favorite authors, and I was like, this is stunning. Mm-hmm. And so now I would like to read, a couple of his other books if I can. But yeah, I suggest that. I think Valley of the Dolls would be kind of so over the top that the group might enjoy it.
I know who you're talking about. The stuff I read's more stuff like, Headline, Asimov's Shakespeare poets.
Right. Yeah, our group is kind of all over the place. When we read those self-help books,
those are my favorite. I'll read other stuff, but that's my favorite kind of style and era. So.
Right.
Yeah, part of me kind of wishes that they would do a series or a movie trying to find out the truth about whether or not Zelda was the ghostwriter, because that would be interesting. Yeah. However, I fear that it would turn out a little too much like the movie Anonymous, that tries to do the same thing with Shakespeare and then goes in a weird direction with sleeping with mom and oh Lord. Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard that one check out. But there really is a lot of information that is inconsistent with Shakespeare and who he was, and is he actually this person, or is he these two people or conglomerate of them that were connected to him?
Yeah. Because
there is a lot of issues and questions on it. But then every time they try to make anything about it, they just go completely nasty. And it's like, can we actually look at the information and try to research it?
Yeah. I just, what I don't trust? I lost my train of thought.
Uh-oh.
Hollywood?
Well, yeah, I definitely don't trust Hollywood. That's for sure. But I had a zinger ready, prepared, but I lost my train of thoughts. So, oh well.
Well, Odin, if you ever get a chance, and I still own my copy on Audible, if you ever would want to hear Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, it's interesting.
And speaking to that, if you actually do some reading, I'm trying to get more people to read things like, Many Waters and Star Beast and stuff. Ones that are from well-known writers, but they're from different parts in their series or what they wrote. And actually, to me, are more interesting. And I'll explain this way. If you watch Star Beast, I will never see a Buick as anything but lummox food.
Mm. But say
Okay.
I don't know what it is, so I have no frame of reference.
Engine cars,
I know that.
I will never see as anything but lummox food.
Okay.
And Star Beast is a good book.
Okay.
It's a line.
I remember what I was gonna say. I was saying all I know is this: I will never trust a man that writes in iambic pentameter, because who does that? Really?
Oh my God.
Who does that? But anyway, Brad is back from timeout because Stephanie B has to be timed
I
out.
may not be a man, but I write like that.
In iambic pentameter?
In a lot of the old English styles, yes.
See,
My brother taught me to read on Shakespearean poetry.
it's just a weird way to write. I don't trust it.
It's not if you understand the language in that era.
I don't trust it.
Well, that's because you're honestly just a little millennial brat.
I'm not gonna deny that. That's for sure. And Stephanie B put imic pentameter.
Yeah, writer.
I'm sorry, I'm the poet girl here, so
So
that is nice to Odin.
and also you can time out this account, I think, because this one's not a mod. So technically you can time out Odin Questions account. I don't know why you would want to, but technically it can be timed.
Why would you want to? Stephanie, we can time out Odin if we want to.
Only that account. Yeah. Yeah, you can't obviously time out the channel account, but that one's the one I have set up just so that it pops up orange when people leave comments. But
Right.
yeah, I'm not sure what would happen. But with that being said, I just want to have a huge shout out and thank you to my chosen of Valhalla. So once again, thank you, Tina, Laura, and Rosetta for joining me once again. It was a fun discussion that had a lot of roasting of me as a
I love roasting you.
so-called movie critic. And
Odin, 1 sec, since I've given you so much crap today, I have to give you the other two. A pitchu wushtik, wonkin tonkin kichiun.
I still can't pronounce that, but thank you.
You'll never pronounce it right.
I'll
'cause you're a
never,
silly
but that's why you're here. So that way you can do it for me. But thank you seriously so much. And also a huge shout out, of course, to Stephanie B in the chat for being the main mod in there. Laura, you've been in there too. Tina, I know you've been in there as well. But Steph has been picking up everything, I feel, and has been doing a really great job. So thank you, Steph, once again for being you and being amazing. And don't worry, Steph, you will never be kicked out of the Valkyrie or anything. And you are always going to be my general.
That's my girl.
Exactly. So thank you.
Stephanie's bomb. Tina is bomb. Period.
Yes. Both Tina and Steph are both bomb, but everyone right here, right now is bomb too. Rosetta and Laura as well. So thank y'all again for being supporters of the channel. Thanks for joining me, and hope y'all had fun too.
Ew.
I hope y'all had fun too, because
Absolutely.
yeah, my back is starting to go on me, but thank you again for.
And I haven't eaten, so.
Well, on that note, thank y'all for watching the stream. Have a wonderful night. And actually, no, I have to. Oh, wait a minute. I can't forget. Let me shout out some people really quickly. So here, let me shout out my September patrons. Animation Commentator, Baptist702, Brian P., Dion, Edward Coleman, Elizabeth M., Enrique Evangelista, Entertainment Hacker, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, Heather Haskett, the Hunkin' Chunkin' Funkin' Monkey. So glad to see you in the chat today, sir. Inflamed Wood, Intertrap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, JJ Jonathan Jarenbeck, Matthew Kadish, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin. I think that he's asleep right now because He's about 12 hours difference from me, so that would make sense. Orange Chat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Perpetual Punster, Riff Magos, Rosetta Alan, Sir Lanzalato, Theodore Bendon, The DJD Show, Those Two Ball Guys, and What an ABC. And also a huge shout out to my subscribers. Let me just refresh it. Drunken Welfare Man, Mr. Roy, Simply Box, History Girl Tina B, G2 Cool 99, Darkstar 57. Yes, thank you very much, Tina. Darkstar 57, Laura Story. Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
Alex McCarthy, US 888-209 Fast, Fan Addicts of Film, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, Filmy Professor, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Christian J. Murr, Rolando Scarfullery, Nebadanchi Adams, and ZK Man. I know that he was in the chat earlier today on YouTube. But thank you so much for watching. Thanks to all the people for watching today's stream. I hope you all had fun. Thanks once again to Laura, Tina, and Rosetta for being here and for being awesome people. You guys rock. Anyway, have a wonderful night, everybody. And as always, God bless.
Bye.
Bye.